live.
And Randy's on here twice.
Okay, we are live on YouTube. Okay, and you said Randy's on here twice. I don't see him twice. Oh, I do. Yeah, no problem.
Using the iPad for microphone, since the nice monitor, a nice gentleman was generous to let me borrow. It works better this way.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, because he has so just to bring you up to speed, Randy has the new studio computer, but his studio display has not arrived yet. What's the updated date on that?
July 20.
All right, so because that has a microphone, so in the meantime, I let him borrow just a monitor that I had so he can use his nice little studio display, but I'm sorry, his studio computer. So how is that computer?
Wonderful. I wish you'd give me a big computation for it to do, like what is the number of pi or whatever, just to see if it really can do something. But it's strong, very strong. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, speaking of pi, it was I think it was on Pi Day, which is March 14th. Some Google researcher had pi to like some digit so far out. It's just amazing. So. And then Keith, I saw your email. I haven't had a chance to really check into it regarding the continuity, but I will check into that. Have you further found anything more on it?
I printed out something from Google about some settings and what it can do in their names for these various things that it does, like sidecar and like, I don't remember what they all are.
Yeah, but we'll go through these because this is good information for me. Sidecar has been around for a while, and what sidecar is, it's the ability to use an iPad, and it doesn't have to be an M1 iPad. It allows you to use an iPad as a secondary monitor for your Mac. And it can do it wirelessly, or it can do it with a cable. And that's a nice feature if you're, say, traveling with the laptop and you want to have a second screen set up. So that's what Sidecar is. And it's like baby steps to what continuity does.
But anyway, I haven't done any trying to change anything or look up settings or anything like this, but apparently there are settings on all the devices and something I have to set up on iCloud, and I don't know what all that is. So anyway.
Well, I have some, I think I have some video today that shows what you're trying to do. Doesn't go into much detail on it.
Okay.
So.
All right.
All right. Before we get started, any other questions? So content-wise today, I'm going to go through some of because I'm looking around at the people here. I think we have at least half the audience were not here for the general meeting. So I'm going to do a recap of WWDC also for what's coming up on that. So I'll try to do it fairly quickly, and then we'll dig into the accessibility. And I'm still investigating a lot on accessibility, and I have to tell you, I'm about 3 hours behind on my schedule because I went up and my best friend and ski buddy, he played golf for the first time up in Tahoe yesterday. And on the way back, there was a 3-hour delay where I'm sitting waiting in traffic. After I got up at 4 a.m. and got up there, we teed off, and I'm on the way back and I'm sitting in traffic. And it was stopped at Kybers because there was a fire, but it turns out the fire was a truck that
It's on
well,
the
it caught on
news.
fire and it caught up just a little bit of the area, so it wasn't like a big fire happened, but traffic was backed up while they cleared that. But the problem was it wasn't just stopped. They were letting traffic go by one direction. So I'd be almost like I should have just pulled over and let myself fall asleep. But anyway, it's pretty difficult. So I didn't get all the stuff I needed done for today. So you guys can file with Bob White. You can ask for your money back and he'll give you refunds. So anyway, any other questions before we move on? And I'll do a little bit of WWDC and then we'll walk in to accessibility. And we have a light crowd today too. So feel free, if as I go along, if you have questions, let me know. And Randy and Bob, you guys are co-hosts. Al Trivet will be joining us late today, but I've given him the links to the videos that I'm going to be using, and he'll post those. And the initial videos are the same ones from the meeting, so he'll have those posted too. So, all right. And we are being recorded. Yep, we're on YouTube Live. So again, as we go, if there's any questions, let me know. I'm going to share my screen with the keynote. Got to do some screen management here first. All right. Okay. Also, I'm going to be playing some audio, and it seems to be working, but you guys, if something's amiss in the beginning, let me know. Let me get this over there. Fantastic. So we've already started the recording. So, this is the Apple's generic accessibility icon. We'll be delving into that a little bit later. In the meantime, I want to talk about two of the big deals that I thought were great in the WWDC. I know no one in here has any problems with passwords at all. And iCloud Keychain has done a great job of making that better. But what's coming in the near future, and Apple, Google, Microsoft, I'm not sure about Amazon, but they've all signed on to this, and it's called the FIDO, F-I-D-O consortium. And they are making it so that pass keys are, and that's Apple's word for it, is pass keys. But what it is your device. So, we all have multiple devices. And like I always say, MacNexus is our 12-step program for us Apple people. Well, all of our devices can be authorized for us. Obviously, can be with biometric, whether it be a fingerprint reader or Face ID, or the fact that you're signed into any of your Apple devices with either a password for your login or a passcode in the case of an iOS device. So the device is already verified that it's yours, and it asks you that virtually every time you use it. So therefore, the device itself will become your quote password. And by the device being your password, what'll happen is when you go, like it is now, like with Apple, many times you can just use your Face ID to have a password fill in for you. So that's nice. That's helped a lot. And if you have some of the newer Macs where the keyboard has a fingerprint reader on it, that's great, because that will fill in most of your passwords at places. But still, the thing is passwords are what sites use to verify. And then there's usually a second two-factor verification where it sends you a text or does something else. Some places use voice print, which is great. But the whole idea is, the problem with passwords is passwords can be compromised. They're usually compromised on the website. it's highly unlikely from in your computer, your password or your iOS device, they're not going to get compromised in there because they're in this they call it a secure enclave. It's the chip in the Apple device that is, even if you disassembled that, took that chip out and tried to put it in another Apple device, it would not work. So there's all this handshaking that goes on. But what'll happen is with passkeys, you will no longer have passwords for these sites that support this new authentication. And what that authentication is going to be is, again, let's give the example of google.com, or you're going, actually, well, we'll say Amazon. I'm not positive Amazon's in this consortium, but we'll just use that as an example. Everyone currently has a password for Amazon. And of course, Amazon wants to make it very easy for you to get on because they want you to spend money. So they try to put up the least amount of impediments there are to get in and do things. But for security and for fraud purposes and all that, Amazon off. And I got to quit using that word or change my name for that. Anyway, so the A company. But the way it will work with Apple Passkeys is, obviously you're signing on with one of your devices. Your device becomes a trusted device. Currently with iCloud Keychain, your password you don't have to enter it in because it's stored on your device, and your device puts that in, and then it's read on the other end. So it's very safe, very secure, and very quick that way. But with passkeys, what'll happen is you will no longer really have a password. Now, you'll still have a password as a backup, because let's say you're on a cruise ship and you're trying to log in to order something you have to have on Amazon as soon as you get back, and you use the cruise ship's computer. Yes, there will be passwords in that regard because you're not using your Apple devices. But your Apple devices would essentially log in for you. And what it does is there's no password. There's a handshake between the device, and the A company connects with your Apple device, and it says, oh, is this really Bob Smith? And it says, yes, I'm Bob Smith, and this is my authorized phone. Boom, and it connects. So the reason that the beauty of not having, quote, passwords is that there's nothing to get hacked, so that they can't get in and get your password. And this will be great for email situations, because email things can get guessed. And the problem is a lot of people's passwords are not very robust. So this will be great. And again, it's one of the calls I get as somebody needing help is passwords is the biggest amount of calls that I get, or the most number of calls I get. So passkeys is coming in the new operating systems, which will be this fall. It'll be called Ventura for the Mac, and it will be iOS 16 coming up in the fall too. So passkeys is what that's going to be. It's fantastic. Oh, and Bob is helping Al out here, and Bob's doing Bob's the link master today. So in chat, and he's got live links to all this stuff, and those will all be available at the end, and then they send out a PDF.
Yeah,
with
but
all
I'm not as efficient as Al.
No, I know, but I'm glad you're taking up in the meantime. I appreciate that, Bob. It's very useful. So passkeys are great. It's going to be one of those things where in the beginning, there'll be a handful of websites that support it, but more and more will. There's no negative to it, and especially any of the websites where you're doing transactions and stuff, it's going to be to their benefit to use this, because it's much more secure, and fraud is a big deal out there. And if you think about it, passwords are like keys to your house and to your car. It would be great if you think back about a century ago, you didn't need locks for the doors on your house, and you didn't need locks for your car, but things have changed. And so passwords are essentially locks. So, and you know, I'll tell you, if you're getting the new Macs too, get the one where you get the fingerprint reader on the keyboard, because that works great. And that actually uses your regular, that unlocks everything in your computer, and the biometric of that is just fantastic. So that's passkeys. Does anybody have any questions on passkeys? Okay. Stage Manager was one other thing that was a big one for me that I thought was fantastic. And Stage Manager does the little bit of thing we were talking about with Keith, is it's this continuity. And so currently in the new iPad OS 16 and iOS 16 and the Macs with the M1 chip, or now the M2 chip, either one will use what's called, have the ability to use Stage Manager. And what this is, it's a great way to interact between your Apple devices. And it's coming in the fall. And I think I have, so this gives you an idea where you're working on all your devices, and Stage Manager allows you to show different screens on and work between them. And I thought I had a video on Stage Manager, but it doesn't appear that I did. So anyway, Stage Manager, I will have a short video in a minute here that I'll show you on that. And another big update that happened recently is, and this wasn't part of WWDC, but Keynote has a small update. So basically now in Keynote, you can have, instead of a static screen that's behind all your, if you have a presentation up with some photos and things like this, the background can actually be active and be moving a bit. And frankly, one of the things to remember is just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So there's some situations where that would be detrimental, and it takes away from the content. You know, anytime you're making a presentation, content is king. Like if we look at this page, for instance, let's say I had this really busy background of, let's say, playing cards or something stupid like that. That would take away from what you're trying to present here. But there's subtle ones that are in there, and I played with a little bit. It's nice, and I think if you keep it very generic and toned down, it can be quite good. The other big deal, and I just still cannot believe it's taken this long, is mail merge in Pages. So what mail merge is let's say you're doing you do a digital holiday card to everybody, and you create it in Pages, and now you can, when you go email it to people, you can go in and you can merge it. And the nice thing is, when you do mail merge, for instance, you would put a generic header and you could say, hi, so-and-so, and you'd put XXX. Hi, so-and-so, this is our Christmas letter, blah, 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 blah. Well, when you do mail merge, it'll take that letter, and if you have your contacts formatted right, where you want someone's first name to appear, it will make each letter or each of these emails have the person's name right in there in the Pages document. And it also makes it good for distributing it, because in your contacts, you can make a group for the holiday list or things like that. And so the merging of that is really pretty good. And it's probably less critical these days because we're not mailing things out as much as we used to. But if you do mail it out, there is a way to do that. So mail merge is good. And I just, it's weird that it has taken this long. And it's become less and less, it's finally there and it's useful, but it's become less needed these days. All right, actually, I want to go back, and there's another, quickly go through. Oh, I don't have it up. That's weird. What's going on here? Here we go. Al gave me permission to use his keynote from WWDC. Oh, this is the news and rumors thing. I'm going to just pound through those. Let's see here. Here we go, WWDC, which is really a pretty cool logo with this emojis on here. So we just talked about this lock screen. The nice thing is now in the new iOS 16 coming out is you'll be able to have customize the lock screen so things can show up like weather or different things will show on the lock screen. And also the other rumor that's come up just recently is the iPhone 14 may have an always on display coming up in the fall. So that's pretty interesting. So live activities. This will be different stuff that's going on. You could have your lock screen show sports scores or things like that. One thing I know, but people don't like that. Sometimes they don't want to get notified if they're recording some sporting goods or some sports event like a soccer match or a football game. So this thing where you can unsend, I believe you have up to 15 minutes. If you send a text to another Apple device and they haven't read it yet, you can delete or edit that text or unsend it. So it's kind of interesting. I can see a lot of issues with this, but in fact, it can happen. Again, if the person has read it, you can't unsend it. So it's not the ultimate in undo. Apple is joining. There's a lot of these programs out there now. It's a buy now, pay later. What they kind of do, there's some that do a pay in 4 equal payments. So it's short-term payments over time with nothing due. I think it just isn't. It helps sell more products, but I think it can be an issue with credit worthiness. So nice thing is if there is the ability in iOS 16 to help in situations where it's an abusive situation. They can do different things to restrict it within the family sharing and stuff. So that's pretty good. They did debut kind of this would be a year and a half from now, a more extensive CarPlay tying in to the home to the infotainment systems in the cars. It's really hard because the car companies take so long to iterate, and their stuff's coming out now in cars that started being planned 3 years ago. So it really takes a while. So I don't know how well this will be received, but it looks pretty interesting. I think a lot of car companies could benefit from having Apple kind of help design that interface. Different metrics on running for watchOS 9. And the other nice thing is medication reminders are not just medication reminders, but there's going to be a little bit better ability to do scheduling of reminders. So that's a big deal. You kind of can already, but there's going to be a fitness app for the phone for if people don't have an Apple Watch. Your phone can keep a lot of those metrics for the fitness app also, which is quite good. Here's the home screen. So you can see there's a lot of different things you can, I'm sorry, not the home screen, the home app. The home app has, and that's Apple's, it used to be called HomeKit. And HomeKit is all the different devices. Like I control my ceiling fans with the home, and you can do certain cameras if they're a HomeKit compatible cameras. More and more things are HomeKit compatible now. And in fact, you can take many of your devices, your Echo devices, or if you have the Google ones, you can have them, there's a thing called, there's a hub, and then Matter is coming out, which is really it's kind of like Passkeys, where it's a consortium of the different manufacturers. They coalesce them together. So if you have an Alexa device and you have some other ones, you can interact with them with HomeKit or Home. But the amount of devices that are supported by HomeKit has been a lot better, because one thing is with Apple, if it's a HomeKit or home compatible device, the ultimate security and privacy is there for you guys. It's just that's their first and foremost. So that's why you don't see every single device in the world there, is because it has to meet some very stringent privacy and security protocols. The M2 processor, it's a follow-up on the M1. I've talked at length on the M1 chip before, but it's just the latest iteration. What is it, a year and a half later from when the M1 was introduced, I believe. The new MacBook Air, it's a little bit different. It's no longer that wedge shape. It's still very thin and very lightweight, doesn't have any fans in it, and it now has the MagSafe connector. So the MagSafe connector is where if it's plugged into the computer and you happen to walk by and trip on the cord, it's not going to pull that computer off the desk and onto the floor. So not to be confused with MagSafe on the phone, which is a whole different thing. The new 13-inch MacBook Pro has the M2 chip, not the 14 or the 16 yet. Those probably, if they get the M2, probably won't be till fall, because right now there's a great thing going on at Apple. It's the annual education discount. So in the education store, MacBook Pros, MacBook Airs, doesn't have to be the M2, it can be the M1s also, are discounted. And then there's also a $150 Apple gift card you get with the purchase. And that usually goes through through October. Sometime in October, they end that. And that's a back to school feature, is why they have that. And then therefore, there aren't really unlikely any new devices will come out between now and October, because that would confuse this education discount. This one is actually pretty neat, and I think even though most of the Apple devices have fantastic cameras in them, and the new Studio Display has a great camera, you have the ability, but one of the best cameras there is in the iPhone. So the ability is to set up the iPhone and use it as a webcam, because it has microphones, and it helps, and they have noise canceling microphones, and it has really good cameras. So rather than using it as the selfie camera, the front of it, it's using the better camera that's on the back, and it can it's really, really neat. And then all it is simply, like in this case, that's a Belkin. It's a little plastic adapter that just clips on your screen, so it can be taken off and put back on very easily. And it's just magnetically attached to the phone with the MagSafe. And so the iPhone 12s and newer all have the MagSafe connector in it. Multitasking and collaboration. This is and it's also in the new Pages and Numbers. It's the ability for people to collaborate on documents together. And you can either send a document to somebody that's not in collaboration, or you can send a document and you allow them to collaborate, and you can both either real time or back and forth over time edit different documents. Ventura is macOS coming out in the fall, sticking with their theming of California points of interest. And I'll tell you, Stage Manager there is neat, and I'm going to have a little video about this whole thing, but Stage Manager is really pretty cool. And but the big thing that I saw is, and I read in just some of the notes, that there is in Ventura the ability to you're in photos, there'll be a little thing on the sidebar that will say about duplicate photos, and then you can treat those duplicate photos how you want. I don't think it's an automated process, because working with duplicate photos can be an interesting proposition, because if you have, let's say you have you have a triplicate of one photo, and that photo sits in the Cruise from 2015 album, and it sits in your Mexico album, and it sits in your whatever city it was in Mexico you were in. If those all three are, if those are different, if those are using the A, B, or C different version of the duplicate or the triplicate of the photo, if you delete it from the album in one place, or excuse me, if you delete the A version of the photo from your library, is it going to delete it from one or all of the albums? And that's the trick, because remember, the album is simply a pointer to the original photo in the library. And in this case, you have three versions of the photo. So which one is it pointing to? So by deleting something out of the library, you run the risk of possibly deleting it from one of the albums. So it's not going to do it it's not going to do it automatically, but it will alert you to it. And I haven't seen it yet. I'm not running the beta on it, but once I get the public beta, I'll give it a try. And let's see here, passkeys. That's going to be, I just talked about that, and I think that was it. So let me go back to my keynote, and I want to show one little video here. And this is a wrap up in like 2.5 minutes of the keynote on WWDC, and it's by Serenity Caldwell, who works for Apple now, but years ago when she worked for iMore, she actually presented at the time via Skype, believe it or not, to our group, and she's just great. So this is a quick recap.
Welcome to HQ. I'm Serenity Caldwell. Here's your day one debrief of WWDC. iOS 16 is now mission ready, starting with the reimagined long screen. Choose from countless fonts, colors, and widgets to personalize your iPhone. Want to set boundaries between work and home life? Activate personal focus. And if you've ever sent an embarrassing message, now you can fix that. Or better still, erase it before anyone spots it. With SharePlay, you can actually watch movies and shows with friends while messaging. Want to send a picture of your best friend without the background? Just touch, lift, and send. Sharing photos with family just got a lot easier with
iCloud Shared Photo Library.
We also got a sneak peek at the future of CarPlay. And arriving in Maps at last, the ability to plan up to 15 stops. Say hello to some new Apple Watch features. There are new workout views like heart rate zones. We made it easier to customize your workout and added reminders to take your meds. And there's a range of new watch faces: astronomy, lunar, playtime, metropolitan, and of course, we can't forget Buddy. The next generation of Apple Silicon is here. Meet the mighty M2. We took all this power and used it to supercharge the new MacBook Air. It's thinner, lighter, and faster than ever. We're even bringing M2 to 13-inch MacBook Pro. We launched the newest Mac OS, Ventura, with big upgrades to Spotlight like enhanced image search. And we introduced
Stage Manager.
Now, working between different windows and apps is faster and easier. And you can schedule send and undo send emails. You asked, we delivered. Introducing Continuity Camera. Now you can use your iPhone as a webcam in ways that were never possible before. Don't look now, it's
iPadOS 16.
for the first time, you can work on multiple overlapping windows with Stage Manager.
And it gets even better.
We make collaborating easier across different apps and devices. And coming later this year, a new app for live collaboration. We added new APIs to all Apple platforms, brought in top-notch weather data with WeatherKit, gave developers more power to build games with Metal 3, made Swift UI more powerful and flexible, raised the bar with Swift charts, introduced Swift Regex, and opened Xcode Cloud to all developers. And congrats to the 12 winners of the Apple Design Awards and all our finalists. That's all for now.
So the few things in there, and actually another big deal on the announcement is coming to the iPad will be finally we'll get weather on the iPad like we've had on the phone forever, which is really jokingly it's a big deal that it's there. But part of the problem is most iPads don't have a GPS chip in them is kind of the reason that it's not been there, but they finally decided to do it. But another thing is the guy in the baby blue colored shirt is one of the Apple VPs who's great. It's Craig Federighi, but you know, they show him kind of in that slow motion running model type scene. And of course, he always has this well-coiffed hair. And Craig is known as his nickname is Hair Force One, is what he's known as. And Randy Hare could actually give him a run for his money because we'll call Randy our Hair Force 2. So, Barbara Moore, you have a question. Go right ahead.
Yeah, when you were talking about the new features on the Apple Watch, if it exists, I haven't been able to find it, so I'm wondering if it's going to be coming in iOS 16, and that is the ability to monitor various sleep functions like REM and stuff like that. I don't think it's in the current version. Do you know if that's part of what's coming in iOS 16?
Well, it's actually not iOS 16. It would be Watch OS, and I believe it's Watch OS 9 is what's coming, if I'm not mistaken. I may have that wrong.
I think you're right about that.
But so sleep functions, there are built-in ones, but there's also separate sleep apps also. So I am not an expert on that because I'm very lucky in that I have no problem. I sleep very little, but I sleep very soundly, so I'm lucky. I kind of have a philosophy on that. To me, it seems like the more people worry about their sleep, the less they're able to sleep and sleep well. So anyway,
There's some truth to that. Yes.
What's that?
I said there is some truth to that. Yes.
Yeah. So again, I'm lucky in that regard because I don't. But I mean, but there are good sleep ones out there. I don't know. Bob just put in something Randy did auto sleep. So that doesn't mean sleeping in your car. I don't think. I think it means it's set it. But there's some great sleep apps out there. But I believe there's some built-in ones too. But I am not. I have no clue on that. Anybody else can pipe in. Randy, go ahead and say something about auto sleep if you want. And
yeah, here. Yes, AutoSleep does provide quite a bit of data. It is a nominal fee for the app, but here's like a screenshot from the iPhone. So you wear your Apple Watch at night, obviously, and it tracks, but you can see some great results in your iPhone or on your iPhone the next day or whenever you want to tap on it. And you can tap on each one of these and you can actually see greater detail of what's going on with your sleep patterns. So again, I think it's a very nominal charge, but it does go into some great detail.
Thanks, Randy.
And I think I have a good friend who he tracks his sleep a lot. And what he was able to do is he was able to analyze good and bad sleep depending on what occurred before he went to bed. And then he's also tracking his wife is in the early stages of some memory issues, and how well and how long she sleeps affects her cognitive abilities during the day dramatically. And so using those metrics has really helped them to kind of analyze that stuff. So, and again, and the newer watches, people wonder about, well, the battery life. Well, realistically, the watch now charges so quickly and the battery lasts so long that you can essentially wear the watch at day and night, and you just need to top up the charge in between. One suggestion is when you're taking your shower, whether it's in morning or at night, pop it on the charger, then you get quite a bit more extra time on that. And you just have to manage it a little bit if you need to. The only irony to that is the majority of in-home calls and problems with emergencies is they happen in the bathroom, in the shower. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. So anyway, something to think about. But Randy, thanks for that. Anybody else have any sleep apps that they can bring to the fore here? Okay.
Don't tell me everybody.
Has any others, or they've fallen asleep on us?
I use Sleep Cycle.
Sleep Cycle. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Peter.
And it's I use their premium version, which is again a nominal sort of fee. So it's constantly being updated. They add new features to it with that one.
And so, many times the beauty of the app, the iOS, and so in this case, the watch is the sensor, and then it'll show you what the feedback is and everything. But the repository and the aggregator of all this information is actually the health app in the phone, because the health app brings all this in and you have to be able to see what it is. And then it pops it back and allows you to read it on the watch, so to speak. So,
right.
And the other thing is that's cognizant with that is, always look at the reviews and stuff too, because some of these things, battery life can be an issue. And if you are sleeping with your watch on, you're going to want to make sure that any of the vibrations are silenced, so to speak, the haptic feedback. Somebody else had something there? I heard a sec.
Yeah, this is Peter again. And the Sleep Cycle uses the iPhone's microphone, so it records some things over the night, such as snoring, sleep talking, and also especially when you have your mate, my spouse. We sleep in the same bed, and we both have the same app, but it's able to tell the difference between both of us. And
oh wow, that's interesting.
Yes, it is. And it picks up some things that are, we have cats. So when it first picked up the cat's meowing, it thought it was a baby fussing.
Well, if you have goats, they do sound like crying babies.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
The one thing they recently added is that it's trying to figure out if there are birds outside. It's picking up using the iPhone's microphone, pick up things.
Yeah.
And last night was the first time it heard something it thought was a bird. I haven't yet figured out what it was, but it sure did sound like one.
Oh, that's interesting. And that is the built-in one. That's Apple's one, right?
Yes. It's Apple's built-in iPhone microphone.
Yeah, but it's the Sleep Cycle. Is the Apple app, or is it a aftermarket?
It's aftermarket.
Okay, and that's called Sleep Cycle.
Sleep Cycle, yes.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the earliest ones because that was out before there was the watch. So that's how come it does it that way. Now with the watch, it's all movement based. So
right.
it's really amazing. And the beauty of all of this stuff is it gathers so much data, but from so many people that it can do this analysis. And that's the really key to this is there's just so much data being thrown at it.
Hey, Kim,
Thanks,
you mentioned silencing the watch at night, which would be a really, really good thing to do. How do you do that? Where is that? And
So if you swipe up from the bottom,
yeah,
there's a alarm bell. And
yeah,
if you tap that, but I'm trying to think how to turn the haptic feedback on. The other thing is that, and I don't, again, I don't use it, but there might be a sleep mode thing you have to do on the phone, because the other thing is when you swipe up from the bottom, you'll see two things that look like theater masks. And
Yeah.
those, you want to activate that too. And what those are designed as, if you're in this dark theater, let's say you were in watching Top Gun or something like that, and every time you move your wrist, of course, your watch lights up. Well, if you tap the theater mode, your watch will not light up unless you tap the screen. So that's what those little masks are on there. And of course, it silences it too.
okay,
The problem is going to be haptic feedback and those things happening. So I don't wear my watch at night. I have mine on a stand because I use nightstand mode, where all I have to do is I tap the end table that it's on, and it lights up and shows me what time it is. So, all righty. Good questions. Okay. So back to the keynote here. I want to go and going to go and talk it to accessibility now. So accessibility, where it's across all the devices. It's handled differently on different devices, and there's 3 different ways to go. I'm going to go through the keynote fairly quick, and then I have some short Apple how-to videos that can describe it so much better than I can. And again, as we go through this, if there's any particular questions. Now, remember, we all know some people that can benefit from this. For instance, like out here in Lincoln Hills, we have a hearing impaired group and we have a sight impaired group, and the iOS device can do just such great things for those people. But and the thing is you may not need this stuff, but everybody probably knows someone that it might be beneficial. There are a few things in accessibility that can help all of us, and I'll point those out too. Although the world's full of suffering, it's also full of overcoming it. And what a great Helen Keller quote. And she didn't have the benefit of iOS devices, but this is this is a video I go back to that is probably, well, by the way, just 3-4 days ago, was June 29th was the day in 2007, 15 years ago, is when the iPhone went on sale. And that's pretty momentous. And I can remember there were big lines at the Apple store, and I said, I hate lines. And so I went by the AT&T store over in Natomas, and I had already been a long time AT&T customer. And of course, remember, they were the only carrier offering the iPhone in the beginning. And there was not a very long line. So I went home. I saw it wasn't too long a line, and I went home. I got my, I think I was 3 hours before, something like that is when I went by. So I went home and got got a chair and came back and got in line and sat there and waited till because I think they didn't go on sale till 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening. And I got in line and I went through, and at that time you could buy the 4 gigabyte iPhone or the 8 gigabyte iPhone. And I had to have the biggest one, and I got the last one they had in that store, and otherwise people got it. And if I'm not mistaken, the phone was an incredibly high price back then. $5.99 or something like that. And remember back then the carriers were giving phones away. And Randy, I'm sure, is just reaching for his original iPhone is what he got. But how can I read your mind there? Okay, put it up on the screen. Did you go grab it? No, okay, never mind. I can dig mine out too. But anyway, it's, it really was amazing. I can remember my first call on it was Pete Losey lived in Vacaville then, and he was over at his AT&T store, and we both got the phone, and we were talking on the phone, and we were saying, oh my God, it sounds better than any other phone we've ever talked on. Oh, there we go. Randy's got the original box, and all those apps were the only apps that came on it. There it is. Yeah, then they were all Apple apps. But anyway, Pete and I'm sure there was no difference in the call clarity, but the amazing thing is it just like we thought it was the best thing. And you think back what phones were like before that. So yeah, there's kind of some negatives to it about people being locked to their screen and stuff. But when you look at the positives from it, you look at all this health information and you look at all the benefits that's happened. So this little short video I'm going to show you is, so Apple just had the WWDC, and the WWDC has become, because they stream it online now and everything else, everybody can be involved. Back when this was done, it was very it was very closed, and everybody was in person, nothing was online. But this was in the very early days of the iPhone, and I'll tell you, this to me is a very compelling video. So I'm going to play this video, and it is showing. Okay, let me go full screen here. There we go.
I've never considered myself a visitor to this community. I'm a son of this community. I work here. This is my home. I have the opportunity as a community health nurse to ensure that there's healthcare available to this very rural setting. That is my goal. I try to see 5 to 6 clients a day, talking about those mothers who need prenatal care, mothers who are ready to deliver, mothers who have young babies at home. We sit down with them and talk about how to ensure that we give the babies the best start of life. I also have an opportunity to ensure that the well-being of the entire family is taken care of. We use Skyscape to diagnose and prevent any complications from setting in. The iPad, it's a resourceful tool. It's a doctor, it's a nurse, it's a public health officer in my bag.
Through this mobile app, we're able to deliver information that's changing every single day. And if we can help physicians to empower them, to provide them with the tools that can create a safer healthcare environment, that is the essence of what Skyscape does. And our goal always is to reach the most rural communities internationally.
The good way to describe rowing is when you see a duck on a Sunday morning, he's just floating along, looking so cute. But underneath the water, his legs are flapping 50,000 beats per minute. It's crazy, it's not pretty, and that's what I love about it. It's not like any other sport. I am a Paralympic bronze medalist in rowing. My first pair of legs had limitations to them. The feet would not move, so when I got on the erg and stretched my legs out, they would just be sticking straight up. So with this foot, I can connect with it through the Galileo app. and the foot can move up and down to whatever angle it needs to be. Before, if I wanted any changes, I would have to go into my prosthetist office to change the alignment in my foot, and you had to do it on their time. So this app has really allowed me to live my life instead of revolve my life around my prosthetics. It's really hard for a girl to be growing up and not being able to wear like high heel shoes because you're limited by your prosthetics. And these feet and my app allowed me to do that. And something just small as that like changed my life completely.
I had always known from a very early age I wanted to build software. When I lost my leg 3 years ago, I was really disappointed by the lack of technology in prosthetics. My first reaction was, this is something that I would really love to build an app for. The first time I saw live streaming data coming from my prosthesis, it sent a shiver down my spine, like this is where this technology should be. I can now control a part of my body using the iPhone, and I think that is going to become the standard as this level of care reaches more people.
Long ago, they didn't read and write. They didn't have a pencil and paper to tell their stories, so they used to tell stories through their drum dancing. It wasn't easy. I remember a lot of things that weren't easy. When I woke up in the morning, it was frosty. My blanket was frosty. Today, a lot of young people, they lost tradition, culture, language. That's why I'm still fighting for my language to stay alive.
There are many, many American Indian languages that are on their last legs, and they will be gone forever from this earth unless something is done. My mom spoke only Cherokee till she was about 12 years old, but she didn't pass the language on to us. So I wanted to create an app to revitalize languages, to appeal to young people to create new language learners. And that's the only way a language can survive. Most of our clients are in very remote areas. There's really nowhere we won't go to do this. And we actually create an app on site while we're visiting them. So these apps have allowed us to revitalize small languages. And it's a way to put the language back into the home where it belongs.
Oh, cute. My grandmother told me, she said, you can do anything in this world, but never forget where you come from.
Salud. Okay. Salud.
Enrique is 10 years old now. He had been nonverbal his entire life. And then we came across Protocol on the iPad. And on the very first day, he says, "Hi, Mom, I love you." That was the beginning of my son speaking to me.
I love you.
I love you. And now, after 9 years, I know who my son is. I found out he's funny.
I'm so cool, don't you think?
He is a typical child now.
think it's very gratifying to be able to make the tools that really help people like Enrique and his family. It's really nice to see how having an app that allows you to communicate can really open up the world in so many ways.
My name is Enrique Hernandez.
In a way, it's almost like magic what's happening.
Can I give you a hug today?
I'm pretty happy that I found something that can actually have a really direct impact on people.
I need help.
You need help. I'll help you.
Enrique has taught me that given the opportunity, anybody could learn to do anything.
I wish I could change all of healthcare. It's not going to be possible. Can we move the needle in one specific area? And we are.
I don't have a background in programming. I'm just a guy who saw a problem that needed to be solved.
I wanted to make my dent in the universe. I wanted to change people's lives, including my own. It's just amazing to be able to do something you love, which is developing apps, and achieve something that is so meaningful to so many people in all parts of the world, in all walks of life, by doing what you love.
All right. That still gets me a bit every time I view that. Now, to put that into perspective, that was for WWDC, the Worldwide Developer Conference, in 2013. So 9 years ago, and only 6 years into the iPhone. And the amazing things, and I should point out too, so Enrique, the nonverbal autistic kid that you saw there, and that was an iPad app, and that was only 1 year after the iPad had been introduced in 2012. So and it's blossomed since then, and this is the beauty of having a robust developer network. But also the thing is the way Apple does it is they make these things available, these tools to make apps, so the app developers don't have to do everything from scratch. They have the idea, and it's almost like, it's kind of like Lego makes the Lego bricks, and whatever you do with them is your thing. The developer doesn't have to make the Lego bricks themselves or the puzzle pieces and things like that. So it's pretty darn amazing. And those devices, and again, the fact that the iPhone is 15 years old right now is pretty amazing. All right, let's go to the next slide here. So often we look at the closed door, not what we see, but what has been opened for us. Again, Helen Keller. So and actually, any questions on that thing? Let me bring up a point on that. The Enrique, the nonverbal autistic kid. So in the past, they used to use kind of like a flashcard thing. Like he could say, okay, I'm not feeling well, or things like that, because they're nonverbal. And with the Proloquo to Go, that app has different pages, and like there could be a food page, and he could say, by just tapping it and then having the device speak or spell out, I want strawberries for dessert, or something like that. So it's amazing. And then look in the context of people we know at our age, we start to know of people that have had strokes, and people can't communicate after strokes for one reason or another, but they could take a stylus and punch in on the Proloquo to Go. There's also been a few instances of nonverbal autistic kids using the iPad to speak for them, because first of all, it's not intimidating, and some have actually become verbal because there's some of the nonverbal thing is this stress and this worried about saying the wrong things, and so it's interesting that that's happened. And actually, there's some apps that help stutterers now too, which is a whole another thing that's amazing. But there's tons of things in there. So what we're going to try to do is touch in some of these different built-in features. And then I have a few more short videos, well, quite a few actually, from Apple on how to do different things. But we're going to talk about sight impairment. This is something that actually is good for everybody. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to use my iPhone here. So let me get in and unlock my phone. And I'm going to stop that share. I'm going to say share. Oops. And iPhone via cable. So I hope you guys can see my screen. Let's get this out of there. And oh, come on, hang on here. Let me get, I'm having issues. There we go. So it's still being shown, right? Yeah.
Which planet is that?
All right, I'm sorry?
Which planet is your background?
Oh, well, that's what I don't know here. Hang on, I'm not seeing it, so. Oh, that's my keynote. So hang on, hide that. Oh, yeah, that's one of the original iPhone backgrounds. And if you press and hold, oh no, it used to move, but I don't have that for my home screen anymore. But that was an early background on the iPhone.
Oh,
and you guys are seeing, oh, and how was the video, the sound on the videos? Was it the right level? Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to show in, we're going to go into magnifier, and everybody can follow along with this. This is good for everyone. So if you go into settings on your phone, and if you get behind or something, just unmute yourself and let me know. But go into your phone, go to settings, and go on down to accessibility. And let me see, because in some of you, actually, another way you can do accessibility is just tap search right at the top and start typing accessibility. And you see there the blue human sign. If you tap accessibility, it takes you to the accessibility app. Or if you scroll down to accessibility, it's about the 11th or 12th item down. Do not set any of these other things because it gets kind of weird. But we want to go down here and we're going to go to down here where it says accessibility shortcut, second from the bottom. Tap that. And if you have hearing aids that are Apple compatible, you want to put a check mark by MFI. MFI means made for iPhone hearing devices. But also everybody else put a check mark by magnifier. And you can have two of them checked, and I'll show you how this works. So is there anybody that does not have magnifier as one of the options? Speak up. Great. So make magnifier an option. And again, if you have hearing devices that you know are made for iPhone, have that checked also. I'm going to show you what happens. So let me find something. All right. So now on the iPhone, so your iPhone that's in your hand either has, if it's got Face ID, it's got a button on the right-hand side. Or if it's a Touch ID phone, you've got the home button on the bottom. And what you're going to do is very quickly triple click that button. So 1, 2, 3. Now, if you only had magnifier selected, magnifier will come up automatically. In my case, I have both set up. So when I tap magnifier, I get this, and I'm going to set this card right here. So there's magnifier, and I'm going to show you how this works. So again, triple click the home button or the side button, and magnifier will show up. So on the screen here, this is just one of these postcards where you get a free dinner for going and listening to a presentation, but it's just a good example here. I have a slider bar across the top. I can zoom in or zoom out, and you can't have it too close to whatever it is. Keep it a little ways away, and then just slide the slider to get where you need to be. But I can also turn on the light if I need more brightness, the little flashlight in the lower right. I don't worry about filters the next thing, you're not doing that. So the other, and again, slide in, and I'm going to show you. So I'm going to slide in, so it's just that. Then you'll notice there's what looks like our normal camera button at the bottom. That's a round circle with another circle in it. So this is kind of like your camera, but this is much better than your camera, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to tap that button at the bottom. And now I've taken that picture at the bottom, but look what I can do. I can zoom in with pretty good detail on that. And again, this is a fairly not great lighting situation I'm in right now. So it is not saved it to my camera roll yet. So once I'm in this kind of suspended animation mode, I tap the screen again and it comes back. And if I hit the X at the bottom, it means go back into live mode. But if I press and hold the image, I get this share button. And when I get the share button, here are my options. I can send it to somebody, but save image will save it to the camera roll. So many times, if it's something you use magnifier on, you want to save. Notoriously, the Apple serial numbers are gray on silver and very small. Magnifier works very well for getting Apple serial numbers. I'm going to go through this again. I'm going to exit out of this. So again, I triple click very quickly. That's the important part. And if you only have magnifier, it'll go right into magnifier. If you have two things on triple click, it brings it up. Then magnifier. Again, I can use this little zoom thing on it. And now I press the button and now it's frozen. And once I've frozen, I could really, like if I wanted to zoom in there, you see the little 2021 brew house and grill, you know, things like that, that are very good detail. Even my keyboard right below here, look how clear that is. And again, this is, I'm not using a very good lighting situation. Oh, there's my Thunderbolt dock right about it right there. See, I can really zoom in on that stuff if I want to. So it suspends it for right now. If I tap the screen again, I could release it. Or if I press and hold on the image, I get what's called the share sheet. So I could text that. I could airdrop it to my MacBook Pro, or I could copy, I could print it, or I could save the message. And I think, actually, what's interesting, let's check this. Oh, it doesn't do the text yet. Oh, and by the way, there is share in the upper right again. So now if I want to release it back to it, oh, what's this one? Okay. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. So that's magnifier. Anybody have any problem with that? Speak up. Okay.
Ken,
Yes, go ahead.
what version of iPhone do you have to have for that to work?
Oh my gosh, magnifier's been working for quite a while.
Because I have an iPhone 6 and I was able to click on the magnifier in under accessibility, but triple clicking my home button did nothing.
Okay, go back to settings.
Okay.
iPhone 6, man, that's like 6 years old, 7, 8 years old.
7. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just haven't gotten around to go getting a new one. I need to do that.
Yeah. Well, how's your battery life, or have you had it replaced?
It's just fine.
That's
I charge it
amazing.
once a day.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, that's amazing. So let's go back into accessibility, and you can tell me if you have, when you go down here, because it might have been a little different there in the accessibility shortcut. Does it say at the top there, like triple click the side button, or what's it say at the very
let's
top?
see. Yeah, it does say triple click the home button 4, and I have magnifier checked.
Okay, so then the part of the problem is to make sure that you're so with the home button on that, you need to kind of make sure the phone's held very tight and then triple click really fast. And you can even do it from the screen. Just try that really quick.
When I double click, I get back to settings. But if I triple click, nope.
Well, double click should give Apple Pay.
Now somehow I got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, I think it's how quick you do it.
Yeah. Okay. I got
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Well, good. No, I'm glad. And that's because I wanted to make sure it didn't have a different thing to go in. And those are, quote, the accessibility shortcuts. And while we're in there, I'm going to talk about some of these other things because we're talking about accessibility. Now, please, everyone, I'm only going to go here and show you this stuff if you promise me that you will not make any changes, because we will have 2 hours worth of people saying, oh God, Ken, my phone is talking to me and I can't get it turned off. So I will not help you if that happens. So don't do it. Okay. Okay. So no one has objected. So I can assume we can move on. All right. So voiceover. And again, there are reasons for this. And I don't know if you remember years ago, we had Shane Snyder from the Sacramento Society of the Blind, and he has his phone screen looks like this. It didn't show up on the screen here, all black. It's just black. And as he moves his finger over the screen, it will speak what's under his finger. So blind people can use the iPhone, and he, in fact, could use the iPhone as quick and as well as I can. And he responds to email messages as quick, if not quicker, than most people I know, and he can't see. So VoiceOver allows it to speak the screen that's behind it. So if I tap VoiceOver, please don't do this. Don't even go into this page. I swear I will not help you, because it will take away from everything else we're going to do. But it says right here, VoiceOver speaks items on the screen. Now, the other thing is, in VoiceOver, as people get more adept at it, you go from the turtle to the hare. In other words, it will speak it faster. And like with him, it spoke it so quick that, and remember, when you've lost one of your senses, your other senses are more hyper aware, so therefore it does it. But these are the things that are in there and the adjustments you can make. And these are buried inside the iPhone as far as accessibility. Now, without touching anything, I'm going to go back. And because the other thing is, if you do that, when you hover over it, we would normally just touch let's say the camera app. And when you touch the camera app, it comes on. Well, in this case, you touch the camera app and it just says camera. Well, you have to double tap to make the camera app fire up. Zoom is another one. I'm going to press it, but don't do it. Zoom allows you to zoom into certain parts of the screen. Now, this is very beneficial for people with macular degeneration and things like that. But what happens is it gets zoomed in and then you have to drag around and do all this stuff. Just like when we all learned to type, it took some time learning this stuff. My recommendation is, if you or someone you know is starting to lose some of their sight, get in right away and learn this stuff while they still have their sight. And I took one lady who had macular degeneration, and we took her iPad and we hooked it up because you couldn't do it Wi-Fi at the time. We did it by HDMI cable, and she had a 42-inch TV, and she would stand at the TV on the side with her cheek almost to it, but everything that was on the iPad could be seen on that screen. So therefore, she was able to use her iPad, having to look at the big 42-inch screen, but still could manipulate her iPad. So fantastic things. Now, I'm going to show you the next thing. Don't do it now, but yes, you're allowed to go in here. Display and text size. So first and foremost, I think everybody over the age of 12, which is everybody here, should have bold text on. If you look at my screen, you can see the difference. Bold text off, bold text on. Bold text off, bold text on. Now, the deal with bold text is it will take up a little more room, but not a lot, okay? So this one is not negative. Now, if I go to larger text, I'm lucky. My up close vision is pretty good. But watch what happens if I increase the size of text too much. You'll notice that it makes it so it fills so much of the screen that I just don't see things the way I'm supposed to. The other thing is I can even go into larger accessibility and I can make that text really, really, really big. But look how little of the screen I can see. So there's downsides to everything. But if you do need it to be that large, no problem. I'll go back in and show you where this is again. I'm going to go back to right in the center. And again, that's in accessibility, display and text size. We'll talk about the lower things in a second. Bold text, hey, go for it with impunity. I think everybody would like that. And that's everywhere in your system. So for instance, if I go to Safari, oh, that's actually Mail. So see the bold text there? Let's go and turn bold text off and look at my Mail without it. See, it really takes up very little. It doesn't cramp you for space like some of the others. And then below that is larger text. And then you can just adjust that. But the key here is only adjust your text as large as you need, because scrolling around, and there's certain apps that won't support it real well, so you're going to miss certain things. I know, for instance, if I have my display zoomed in, there's certain apps with the Face ID where I can't get right where that little black line is at the very bottom is to swipe up on the iPhone, it makes it tough to do it. So any questions on text size yet? If there is, let me know. So there's just some other ones in here. Reduce transparency. Some people, so, you know, the iPhone likes to show what's behind it and things like that. Sometimes people find that makes for tough contrast. And what you do is you could reduce transparency, increase contrast. I'm going to show you one thing and we'll see if it shows up on the screen there. So this is invert colors. So inverting colors in a situation like this might be really good in really bright sunlight, but some people don't see contrast very well, so it inverts the color like this. That's not the same as we have in display. We can do dark mode or light mode. This is completely different. And this is the old other inversion. And what it does is then it also does a contrast color. That's classic invert. And you know, you can play with some of these others in here. This is a screen I'm okay to let you mess around with, just not the other ones. Motion, some people have issues with like the phone has motion blur and things like that. You can end up reducing that if it bothers you. Spoken content. We're gonna deal with this. I have a video about this, so it'll get covered in that, but this is where you do it. And speak selection. That's not a bad one. And you guys are okay to turn that on. Okay, well, you can go with speak screen. Let me show both of those to you. So if I'm in Safari, I'm gonna go to, let's see, just anything, apple pie. So I'm going to look for an apple pie recipe. So I want text. Give me text. I don't want an image. All right. So here we go. So you see here, it's our homemade pie like that. So what I'm going to do is going to highlight a line of that. I just tap the screen and I grab the handles. And I'm going to go right to there. Now, it pops up. I could copy, I could paste, I could translate it, or I could speak that selection.
Our homemade apple pie is sure to be the best apple pie recipe you've made to date.
Okay. Or I can do a 2-finger swipe down on the screen. Oops, hang on. Let me see. That's
Comma, advertisement, region, pull apart recipes, sandwich recipes, cookie recipes, cake plus cupcake recipes, bar recipes, crescent roll recipes, biscuit.
So let's do this. Let's go into reader mode. Oh, it won't let me. So anyway, it's doing all this other information on the screen. And the way I did that is I went to the very top right in the center and I pulled down with 2 fingers. And that is
Comma,
speak
advertisement,
screen.
region.
Now with the speak screen, I can change the speed. I can play back, I can hold and can do that. So when we go back to settings, that's what speak screen is. And you notice it says swipe down with 2 fingers. And if it doesn't work when when your 2 fingers are next to each other, just spread them apart a little. But that brings that up. But the other one was speak selection, where I highlight it and then let it speak the text. And then there's the speaking rate at the bottom, and you can change that. So that's kind of nice. If let's say you have some AirPods on and there's an article you want to read from, how Vanity Fair articles are really long and things like that. You could highlight the entire text and play it back. And it's, not like an audiobook, but pretty close. Any questions on that stuff? Okay. So the next one that's vision. The next one is, oh, and by the way, audio descriptions don't necessarily go in there. But what that does is just like when you hover over something else, it will give you descriptions of what's going on there. So the rest are people where you might have physical or motor challenges. There are the ability to do different things. And I would say everybody's different on that. So I would kind of just leave those be. Now, hearing devices, it's a big deal. If you have a hearing device, quote, hearing aids, if they're made for iPhone, you would tap on here and they would be listed up there. So, and it allows you, if it's available there, you want to put it in there, even though either we're a Rexton or an Oticon or whatever one you have has their own app, you also want to have it in Apple's accessibility, because with Apple's accessibility, you can triple click. And when you triple click, and let me see if it works, even though it's not connected to a hearing aid. Hang on, 2 clicks was Apple Pay. I didn't want that. Hearing devices. Yeah, so I don't have hearing aids, but this is what the screen that comes up. So you would have, see, since it's not connected, you would normally have the ability to adjust left and right. It would show you what your current battery charge is or your battery state on your hearing device. But the other big one is this one called Live Listen. And this Live Listen, we also have available on AirPod Pros. And the beauty of Live Listen is, and I'll just relay a little story about this. So about 3 years ago, out here at Lincoln Hills, pre-COVID, we had this thing called our open lab, which was essentially where people can bring laptops or iOS devices in and get one-on-one help, very similar to how triage was. And the lady came in, and I don't know her. She's got so when these people sign in, they tell what their problem is. So we go out and we have them come in back into the room we're helping them with, and they have a little note. Yeah, she's got a problem with her MacBook Pro and with calendar or something. So she comes in and we sit down, and I turn to her and I say, okay, well, what's this? And she says, well, before we get started, just so you know, I'm hard of hearing, so speak towards me. And I looked at her. She's here to have her MacBook Air fixed, MacBook Pro, excuse me. Anyway, she says, you'll have to speak a little because I'm a little hard of hearing. And I looked at her and I saw she had hearing aids. So she's there to get her MacBook Pro fixed, but I immediately pushed it away and I said, give me your iPhone. And she handed me her iPhone. And I had her unlock her iPhone, and I went into hearing devices and I activated Live Listen, and I turned away from her. And I mean, by this time, she just like, what the hell? I'm coming here to get my MacBook Pro fixed. What's going on? I turned away and I had her iPhone in my hand, and I whispered into the iPhone. I said, can you hear me? And she said, oh my God, yes, I can. And I turned back around, and in this short amount of time, she had tears running down her cheeks. And I was appalled at that. I mean, I love that I just showed her this thing, and she says, oh my God, now I can go to dinner with my husband and hear him talk. Because the troubling thing with hearing devices is noisy rooms like restaurants, being able to hear the other individual. So what Live Listen does is mechanically, if you have an AirPod Pro or a hearing device that is MFI, made for iPhone, that is linked to your iPhone, you now can take, and if with Live Listen on, it uses the microphone, the normal microphone we use on our phone to talk into it. It's on the bottom, becomes a microphone directly into the person with a hearing device on. So in this case, when she goes to dinner with her husband, she turns on Live Listen, she places her phone on the table facing her husband, And now it's a direct link, almost like it'd be a Canon, the old can with a string, directly into her hearing aids, using the microphone on the phone and still being able to hear everything else that's going on with the hearing aids. But in fact, it amplifies it through the phone. So that's what live listen is. Now, you don't leave it on all the time because you don't want that much noise coming in through your phone. And sometimes there's a slight delay. So live listen can be turned on and turned off. To get into that panel, you triple click, go in and say, turn on live listen. And so if your hearing device is not able to be put in here where it says MFI or hearing devices, it may or may not be Apple compatible, but you want to always find out if your hearing aid is MFI. And if it is MFI, and many audiologists don't know this, but that you really, it's amazing. So if your hearing aid doesn't currently support MFI, I would recommend that any next hearing aid you get should be MFI. And I always have to do this public service announcement. Years ago when I was doing this class, I always say this every time I talk about accessibility is everyone should get their hearing checked, even if they don't think they need it. Because the last people that know they need hearing devices are the people that need hearing devices. But secondly, the deal is with your hearing, if you need hearing assistance, the longer you put it off, the worse it will get, because hearing loss is cumulative. But secondly, what happens is at some point, your brain will shut down the pathway to that sense because it says, you're just not using this sense. Let's concentrate on the other things. It's the opposite of the fact that blind people have a tendency to hear better than people that have full sight, because their brain can pay more attention to the senses that they have. So get checked. Costco will do it for free, and you should establish at least a baseline and then get it checked every year. And I'm due for my checkup myself. I had my first hearing test 2 years ago. Everything was fine. But now after COVID, I'm going to go back in and just see, and I'm going to continue to do it because, again, it's really it's cumulative. And Apple, the nice thing is Apple has some ways of even there's some online hearing tests and stuff now, but you really need to go in and see an audiologist. And hearing devices have dropped in price dramatically, and they're continuing to come down, but it's worth the money to get it MFI. So any questions on hearing devices, since we kind of went through that? Yeah, go ahead.
I have hearing devices, and you just clicked off of it. There's a place that says would you go back onto hearing devices? What does this mean, control nearby devices?
I believe that it's like if you had an iPad, it allows you to control your hearing device with it also.
I see.
In other words, it uses this handoff technique to do that over to it. I'm not sure though.
And what about audio handoff?
So that's another one where, and again, because hearing devices are generally Bluetooth. So it's just an enhanced level of Bluetooth. And so audio handoff is done, for instance, and this happens, I do this with my AirPods. I know when I take my car to the car wash, my AirPods are generally hooked to my phone, but they'll switch to other ones. So if I'm sitting there and I pull up my iPad and I'm reading mail or something like that, but then there's a link to a video, it will go from playing it on my phone. If I'm listening to a podcast on my phone and then the video comes up on the iPad, my AirPods will switch to playing the sound from the video on my iPad, because it says, oh, well, you're playing this. This is one we want right up in front. And sometimes it's a hassle, but most of the time it works really well. So it basically transfers that handoff. It says no longer have what's on my iPhone go to my AirPods or my hearing devices. Have it go to from the iPad. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
And Mary, you tried to ask a question and then you went away.
Well, it looks like Al was on it. I have relatives who are, dare I say, Android users, and I was trying
Well,
to.
you know, you can always pick your friends, but you can't pick your relatives.
That's right. But they have hearing aids, and I just wondered if there was a similar kind of program. If you just happen to know. I was trying to look it up, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And I think there's probably they're making strides, and if not Android, possibly Samsung themselves and things. But they're following the lead of Apple, and I think that. But I think Apple is ahead on accessibility, and of course Al did just do a link on it, so it's out there, I think. But again, it may not be as seamless. It might be, but it's one of those things.
Well, they chose Android, not iPhone. What are you going to expect?
Yeah. Well, like I said, you can't live with them and you can't shoot them.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Ken, I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
I have a comment about the hearing aids. I have hearing aids and they're connected to my iPhone. And so I hear the sounds from the calls and stuff come into my hearing aids, and that's really great. The downside to this is if I'm the navigator and riding in a car with my wife and we're going someplace and we want to know how do we get to the motel or how do we get to the nearest gas station or whatever. If I ask Siri for directions, the sound comes into my hearing aids, and my wife who's driving the car can't hear that, and there's no way to get it to go to the speaker on the phone as well. So I have to use her iPhone if I want to get directions in the car so she can hear them. So I've talked to you about this before, and you said there's no way to connect both your hearing aids and the speaker at the same time.
Well, first off, Keith, you need to turn in your man card, because we all know men don't ask for directions. Just kidding. But see, part of that problem is how the car handles Bluetooth.
Okay.
And that's because every car handles Bluetooth differently. And the way I always equate Bluetooth in a car is, think about a home entertainment system where you have, and let's just go back long ways, when we had a VCR, and then you had a DVD, and you had your cable box. And also on your tuner, you usually had AM, FM, and radio. So you had multiple sources to feed your amplifier and your speakers, right? And you would choose, okay, I'm playing DVD. Well, later on, it automatically detected if a DVD was in. But let's say you wanted to change, well, actually, it's even easier. Let's go to AM and FM radio. So let's say you have a choice of sources on your car, and let's make it simple. You have AM radio, you have FM radio, and you have Bluetooth. Well, you know that you have to pick the source. So in other words, if in real rudimentary terms, if you're listening to AM radio and the mapping program on your phone is connected to your car via Bluetooth, to really hear it, you'd have to, on most cars, you'd have to switch to Bluetooth to be able to hear either the music on the phone or the map directions. But the difference from that is the protocol, which called hands-free, the Bluetooth protocol for phone calls overrides everything. And so that's why your phone calls come in to the car, almost always will come on Bluetooth, no matter what's selected, whether it be AM, FM, or AM radio, FM radio, streaming, CD, whatever it is, that comes in. Now, the exception to that is if you're listening to music or podcasts or something on your phone and a call comes in, it's already on Bluetooth. Also, on your phone, if you're using Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps, if you're using Bluetooth, if you're using music or podcast from your phone, it will always come in because the selection on your car is the phone as Bluetooth. And what happens is you're listening to, let's say, FM, and a call comes in, it'll break through. If you're listening to FM and the map tries to give you directions, it won't come in. The same thing is happening to your headset, or I'm sorry, your hearing aids. They're the default in your phone. And so therefore it's going to that. And what you might want to do is, what do you use for directions? Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps, what?
Siri.
Yes.
Well, Siri, okay, no, so Siri uses
Google
Apple.
Maps.
Siri uses Apple Maps unless you tell it. So I don't know if you guys are all aware now too. And believe me, even though I have killer navigation in my Tesla, I use Waze almost all the time. Well, what I do in my case is with Waze, I tell Waze to not go through my Bluetooth, but to in fact just use the iPhone speaker. So it doesn't interrupt my music or anything else going on in my car, and therefore I don't have that problem. In your case, tell navigation to just use the speaker in the phone rather than going into your headset.
Interesting. Okay. I can't use the automobile because the automobiles that we drive are so old that Bluetooth wasn't invented when the automobiles were made.
Yeah, and but again, Keith, it's even if it was a 2022 car, the problem is if you're using whatever it's selected to only for phone calls, in all cars does it go to the phone call, and that breaks through. But if it's Bluetooth coming from the phone for directions, it doesn't do that. But in your case, like I on Waze, you could just use Waze and have it just, and I believe Apple Maps, all of those, tell it to just use the phone speaker, and that would hear it for you. The other thing is again, if you're whatever you're doing, if you're listening to stuff, even rudimentary old Bluetooth, use the music or whatever it is you want to do from the phone and have it Bluetooth to the car, and it should go. So
okay, I'll
now
try
with
that.
Siri, so that brings up the other thing. So when you're using Siri, if you say the word "hey" and the word Siri, you can say navigate to Sacramento International Airport, and then after you say that, you can say using Google Maps or using Waze, and it will now do it. It used to be Siri would only give you Apple Maps. No longer, and Apple Maps have improved dramatically, but I happen to like Waze because it shows you other things. So I just say navigate to such and such. Like yesterday, I said navigate to Tahoe Paradise Golf Club using Waze, and it did it automatically.
Okay.
So Barbara, I guess I lost you. Did I answer your question? Unmute yourself.
I thought it might be premature, but like you said, I'm about ready to go get a hearing test, and I think I am going to have a little bit of hearing loss. So if I do need to get a hearing aid, how do you connect it to your phone? Is there instructions that come with the device, or what happens? I don't know anyone who wears hearing aids.
Yes, no, and maybe. And actually, you probably do know a lot of people that need hearing aids or have hearing aids. They're just so discreet these days that you almost don't see it. So that's a good thing, and that breaks the barrier of the whole vanity thing. And remember, if you need one, you get them and use them. And there's great strides in people with now the rechargeable ones. I frankly recommend, because of travel, I recommend the ones that aren't rechargeable. I recommend the little batteries. The batteries are cheap. They're very small. You can keep a bunch with you, and we can elicit feedback from people on that. But the most important thing is research the hearing aids and get one that's MFI. And people have different insurance programs and things like that. The VA finally, when we first did this presentation years ago, the VA wasn't approving hearing devices. They are now. But Costco, I think, is the best deal, and the Kirkland Signature. They're made by one of the big companies. I think the current one is made by Oticon, if I'm not mistaken. It used to be Rexon. But anyway, they're like $13.99 if I'm not mistaken for a pair.
Wow.
But again, make sure you get the ones with MFI. There are ones out there that are a lot less, and the law changed recently where they do not have to be dispensed by an audiologist. So now you have hearing devices out there that don't have all the whiz bang features, but they're in the hundreds of dollars rather than the thousands of dollars. But the same hearing aid you would get from Costco for around $1,400, it could be up to $8,000 at a freestanding audiologist. So be well informed, be careful, do your research. But first of all, go to Costco and get a free hearing test to see if you need it. And believe me, there is no hard sell involved at all at Costco in that regard. But you want to establish a baseline, and then you can determine 1 year to the next how your loss is progressing. And then from that point, go. There are special hearing issues that you may need a specialty audiologist to address certain things. And I can remember at at Fireside, doing this same presentation. And after the meeting, a lady came up because I really tout the thing of get a hearing test. It's important. She was a retired audiologist, and she thanked me for saying that, but she said, yeah, you really do. It's a big deal. And so, anyway, go ahead, Barbara, with the follow-up.
Costco has the MFI devices?
I'm sorry?
Since you said Costco is good, they have the MFI?
Yeah, but some of them are and some of them are not, and don't trust. So the problem is and setting them up is quite easy, especially if it's MFI. It's done from the phone, but I would be willing to bet that 50% of the audiologists out there don't know how to do it, or do they even have their people? They don't even do it. And it's such a crime because, my God, it opens up so many better features. So to take it a step further, if you have an MFI one, so normally if you need your hearing aids adjusted, like sometimes left ear, right ear may respond a little differently. So you may need a little more volume on the right one. Well, you usually have to take them in and get them adjusted and all this. That can all be done. Now, they also, the apps for the companies that make the hearing aids, there's an app for the iPhone for it, which is good. But the actual Apple one in accessibility is great. And remember, your phone always knows where you are. That's geolocation. So you can actually even do a setting. Let's say there's a restaurant you go to a lot. You could adjust your settings, because with the good hearing devices that are MFI, it will help mitigate the background noise, which is the hardest part about making hearing aids work. And then you can say, okay, I've got this set. I like this setting. You can save that setting as a favorite and even tell it when you enter that location to automatically set that setting for that location.
Wow.
And it's amazing. And you do all this right on the phone. You're leveraging that. Now, again, most of the ones have their app that'll do it, but also it transmits over to this accessibility feature on it. Makes it really easy. It pops up and it even shows you how much battery life you have left.
Ken?
Yes.
I've been wearing hearing aids since 1986, just for the rest of the people. I started out with a private audiologist, and they cost me $3,000 to $4,000 for a set.
Back in '86.
When Costco opened up, I went there. I got the exact same hearing aids at that time for $1,700. In addition to that, you could go back anytime for a test to have them cleaned. They provided batteries, and this was all included in the original price. I then when VA, Veterans Administration, started giving hearing aids, I then went to the VA, and my hearing had been affected years ago from small arms fire in the Marine Corps. So they provided me with hearing aids, and that's where I'm going now. And their service, if you're a veteran, you should check with, if you're in Placer County, the Placer County Veterans Bureau or Sacramento. Each county has their own Veterans Bureau, and there's a lot of paperwork involved, but the service is wonderful. And since I went to Costco there, every hearing aid set that I got has had the MFI, and it's wonderful. Just so you know about these things.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your service too. I mean, that's amazing. And they say small arms fire. Yeah, that darn thing's right next to your ear, and that's and hearing loss is cumulative. As a young people, you may have gone to a bunch of concerts, things like that. And by the way, the iPhone and the Apple Watch can monitor loud situations and alert you because it's a decibel reading. And so it's amazing. But yeah, I mean, Charles, it wasn't what, 10 years ago, you couldn't get hearing aids through the VA, right?
Right.
Yeah, and now they include it. But also many of you may have Kaiser, you may have it covered on there, but don't assume that that's the least expensive way to do it or the best way. So do your due diligence and check into it, because it can make a big difference in your life. Mary, just the lady who cried, at the thing. So Mary, you had a question. Did we address it?
Pretty much. I just know some people who have severe losses and they can't go kind of to the standard, but you mentioned that. So just be cautious.
Yeah, and to take that one. Take that one step further.
Yeah.
If regular, so there's regular hearing aid, there's sound enhancers, then there's hearing aids, and then there's specialized hearing aids, and then there are cochlear implants. And the cochlear implants now, because I've talked to them and talked to some different people, the cochlear implant is actually MFI now also. So that's a huge breakthrough, because cochlear implants are people, they don't just need hearing aids, they're deaf, usually from nerve damage or from medication, different things like that. So cochlear implants are amazing. Yeah, we have an issue out here where this one lady who has cochlear implants, and she's in the hearing group, and we've had to install special things in the theaters in here for her to be able to use it. And all it needs is she should hook her cochlear implant to her iPhone, but she refuses to. She'd rather be a victim. And that's sad, because it's amazing. I have worked with her to try open it up, and she just won't hear of it. Well, excuse me, that's a terrible pun, but she won't have, and I didn't mean that. She won't have anything to do with it. And it's just, and I think it's seriously, she'd rather be a victim. And that's sad, because it's cost our homeowners association $100,000. And all she has to do is get an iPhone. Anyway, that's my rant. I'm sorry. But
well, and may I just add one thing? My brother-in-law is a musician, and because of that, he had some special needs. Just so if you're really into that kind of thing, make sure you check it out. That's all.
Well, yeah, and that's actually, musicians, of course, suffer the hearing loss a lot too, because they're around the loud music. But the other thing is, I should point out, there are now hearing aids in the last 5 years. There's hearing aids that are, so hearing aids are amplifiers is what they are. But, just amplifying the sound doesn't always make the sound better. It just makes it, it's weird. But there are now because of the amazing digital things that are happening, there are hearing aids that are much better for hearing music than other things. And so those are out there too. So if music means a lot to you, you should look into ones and ask for that specifically. It's not at the expense of other stuff. It's just sometimes a little bit more money for those. Obviously, if you're just listening to talk shows and things like, excuse me, things like that, it's not that much of a deal. So anyway, so that's it about. Go ahead.
Curiosity question.
Okay.
What in the world did the HOA have to do that? They had to spend that much money.
In any of the public facilities that are the theaters and things, they had to do closed captioning and all kind. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of stuff like that. And they had to do this. So we have this thing where they go in and you can get the special hearing things that are transmitted in these different places. Which the same thing can be done with the iPhone, but this lady wouldn't. So they've had to and the thing is, it's a bottomless pit. It's an ongoing thing. You see, we have quite a few facilities out here, and so it has to be in each one.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
it's
we
not
had
just
to,
one.
we had to update the sound systems here where I am, but it's only one building. So.
Yeah. All right. So back to accessibility. Physical hearing we talked about. Now, guided access and those things, I've got some videos on those. We're going to show those. So I want to just go into Siri also. So Siri is the last one, or in the last column here is Siri. And then you can activate Siri by saying the word "hey" and the word Siri, and it learns your voice. You can press and hold your home button, and the way it comes back is you can adjust here your spoken responses. So when I say only give me feedback when I say the word "hey" and the word Siri when I'm connected to Bluetooth or CarPlay. So in other words, when I hold it in my hand, it doesn't do that. And this is just a way to make it so when you're out in public, you're not going back and forth. And and this is interesting. I thought this was on, and I do want this on. Oh no, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I don't want it on. So in other words, because I have multiple devices like a HomePod and things like that. So if I set my phone face down, it won't respond to the word "hey" and the word Siri, or if there's something covering the face. So in other words, it wants, when it's my foremost instrument, it does that. Let's see. I think that's it for Siri. Any questions on that in Siri? And I'll be doing a Siri presentation up in the next couple months, Siri and dictation. So that's accessibility. Let's go ahead and flip back. So let me undo that share and go to share screen. All right. So Apple's YouTube support site. Al has all these links and he'll put them together, and I have them I'm going to go through them in the order that I gave them to Al. And Al, you can probably just pop them all in at the end in one copy and paste if you want. I know you've already been putting a bunch in, but they'll be in this order. And of course, this is recorded, so you can still do it. But the first one is the Apple support channel in YouTube. And you see through this, but what I've gone through is I've picked out some highlights of accessibility ones. And there's a couple I may skip, but I'm going to go through here. And I did this one. And this is important because coming up this fall, the iPhone 14 will come out. And I thought this was a good one because people always ask this, or I always ask them, because and actually this is appropriate with the iPads and everything else, is when you go to get a new one, you can't upgrade the storage. So you really need to find out how much storage you want or need. So this is just a little 56-second one, and it's pretty good.
Hi, I'm Jung. If you're wondering which storage capacity to get on your new iPhone, finding out how much storage you're using today can be a great way to help you choose. On your iPhone, open Settings, tap General, then tap iPhone Storage. Here, you'll learn exactly how much you're using, how you're using it, and how much you have left. The breakdown really helps you understand the whole picture, your apps, music, podcasts, the photos and videos you take, attachments, things like that. If you're nearing your limits, you'll want to consider an iPhone with larger capacity. If you have lots of unused space, an iPhone with similar capacity to your current iPhone may be a better choice. If you have any other questions, our team is always available in store, on the phone, or in chat.
Actually, that's something pretty poignant too. You know, Mary has these family members that are on Androids, and Mary, I would, if you want to rub it in their face a little, just say, okay, and if you have a problem, where is the Android store? And good luck calling phone support. So,
They have
you know,
some Android stores? Oh, or
No.
those Google stores?
no, do you know where there's no Google stores, there's no Android stores, there are no Samsung stores.
I thought I saw one someplace. Sorry.
Now
Well,
there's stores that sell them, but I mean, and it just, you know, but there are independent things out there, but I'm just saying, we pay more for Apple products and we get great support.
yeah.
And
Who knows
that's
why
a
they-
huge. So so I'm gonna switch to the iPhone here really quick and show you something that I think is worthy, because this is just not even just for when you're getting a new phone, but there we go. So if I go into General iPhone storage, you let it populate a little bit. And I have the big phone and I'm using more, you know, because it's more than half. But you have these recommendations. Now, there's two things, and I'm going to show you both. There's the storage on your device, and there's your iCloud storage. And they're only tangentially associated with one another, but they're really totally different. So it's taking a while. So I do not have iCloud Photos on my phone. If I enabled it, I would save 293 gigabytes on my phone. And I have 55 gigabytes of apps I don't use. Now, see, I have plenty of space. And the whole idea with storage space on your phone is you want to make sure you have plenty of extra room. Okay, if you keep your phone for 2 years, how much room are you going to need 2 years from now? Not what you need today. If you keep your phone 4 years, or Dick Warner, bless his heart, who's got an iPhone 6, he's still having that. Well, what did you need? You know, so you got to anticipate what you need 7 years from there. So Apple's done some good things about iCloud, which we'll talk in a second. But anyway, this storage space is a big deal. And you can see here, it tells you by color what's taking up the room. And I could save that much storage space if I wanted to. The other thing is delete old conversations. That's because in text messages, if somebody sends you videos and things like that, and you do not have it enabled on the cloud, you've got all that stuff. Personal videos. So these are the videos that are taking up the most room in the Photos app, and I could delete some of those. Now, I'm not saying you should, this is just showing you. And then it shows what apps are taking up what room. So for instance, podcasts. Now, I'm using a different podcast app most of the time, so this isn't a big deal, but let's just go to that and show you. So I click on that, and I have the ability to offload the app, and that will free up the storage used by just the app. But if I delete the app, that will take the app itself, which is only 16 megabytes, plus the 116 gigabytes of all of these apps that are in there. So I can edit or get rid of all episodes if I wanted right there. So that's one. None of these others are that big. iCloud Drive, you really need that anyway. That's documents and data. So that again is settings, general, iPhone, or in the iPad case, iPad storage. Okay. So now the other thing is iCloud storage. So if I click on the first thing where your name is, go down here and hit iCloud. So I have the 2 terabyte plan. So it shows you and it gives you a good idea. My backups are taking up some room. We'll go in and look at that. My photos aren't taking up a ton of room because I don't keep my big library on there. And then documents and then others. But the big deal here is you click manage storage. It'll take a second to populate. And it will show you what's taking up your iCloud storage space. Remember, your iCloud storage space is doing a few things. It's backing up your iOS devices. It does not back your Mac up, but it does because your Mac is backed up another way. So it's showing me that I have 325 megabytes of backup. So let's see what's taking up all that room. And you can see, oh, wow, that's weird. My iPad is not on here. I'll have to find out why my iPad's not backing up. But my iPhone is backing up, and it's large here for the backup because remember, I'm not using iCloud Library. If I was using iCloud Library, it would be backing up more of those because my photos are, I'm sorry, I'm using iCloud Library, so it's separate. Oh, it's all those podcasts and stuff. So anyway, that is iCloud storage and iPhone storage. So any quick storage questions before I go into the other meat of the accessibility presentations? Just when I was researching the accessibility, I happened to see that and I thought it was important because in the fall, we'll have the new iPhone 14 coming out. All right, so in kind of no particular order, but these are the orders that they are in the sheet that I sent. So we're going to do accessibility, and this is universal control, and this is really pretty neat, and this is a new feature.
Starting in macOS 12.3 and iPadOS 15.4, you can use universal control to work seamlessly across up to 3 of your compatible devices. Here's how. In this video, we'll show you how to set up universal control on your Mac and iPad and how to use it. To set up universal control on your Mac, in the Displays pane of System Preferences, click Universal Control. Then click each checkbox to select them. To set up universal control on your iPad, in Settings, choose General and tap AirPlay and Handoff. Then tap to turn on cursor and keyboard. To use universal control, make sure you're signed into the same iCloud account on all your devices and place your Mac and iPad next to each other. This works with up to 3 compatible devices. Now, you can use a single keyboard and mouse or trackpad to move between your Mac computers and iPad, and even drag and drop content. Set up, sign in, control.
So Keith, that was pretty much to answer your question. And it's the reason I've got it in accessibility here too, Keith, that's what you need for what you were talking about is universal control. But many times if you have something on your phone that's so small and you want to do stuff with it, you would use universal control. It would come over and you could put it on your big screen, whether it be a 24-inch iMac or whatever. So, all right. Now Conversation Boost. Actually, you know what we should do? Let me do this. Back to our accessibility. I skipped all this because it didn't make sense for us. But only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. I thought that's pretty incredible. Okay, back to, this is going to play into the video I'm going to play here in a second. This was another one years ago at the developers conference, and This talks about live listen, which we just talked about. So let me go ahead and play this.
We had time and we continued up towards the bench lakes.
Bench Lakes?
Yeah.
Right. Are the wildflowers out now?
Oh my God, they are amazing. With Indian paintbrush, the colors and all the flowers.
To me, that's a great representation of how live listen, how it affects people. They just did that, and hopefully you're able to catch that on here. And this is the screen of what the hearing aids look like when they're MFI, how it's connected, and what you can do. You have playing ringtones, audio routing. By the way, on the phone now too, whether it's AirPods or hearing devices, you can have it announce the call. So if someone's in your contacts, it will announce who's calling through as the phone or as it's ringing in your ears. It will also just do the number if it's not in your thing. Control nearby devices, all of these things. But on the right-hand screen, this is pretty neat because this shows you the battery level right and left of the hearing devices. You can stream. So one thing you can do, it's really nice. You could have just music coming into one, but have the other one not have streaming music going to it, so you can hear around you and things like that. You can adjust independently. You can adjust the hearing volume mic. In other words, how strong you want it to hear it between the two devices. And then down here are the presets I talked about, where you can set them for either restaurants in general or specific places that you're used to. And the challenge with hearing aids is that, loud, like they were in this loud cafeteria, right? And there's all this superfluous noise. Well, the beauty of your iPhone is your iPhone has noise canceling microphones. So if everybody looks at their iPhone where the cameras are in the back, you'll see a little hole there. There's a little hole right by the camera lenses. And that hole, I'm not talking about the white flash or the LiDAR sensor. There's an actual physical hole. That's got a microphone in. That's one microphone. Your iPhone has another microphone that's the normal one we use when we speak into the phone, which is in the lower left speaker grill. Okay, so that's two different microphones. The noise canceling microphone works this way because it listens through both microphones and heard all that background chatter that's going on. But when you speak to the iPhone, you're not speaking to the lens on the back where that one microphone is. You're actually speaking to the microphone on the bottom. So it says, well, I've got all this sound that's coming to both microphones. I'm going to use noise cancellation and take that away. And it concentrates on only the noise coming in only to the bottom microphone. And that's why in a loud situation, it can work for the hearing device, but also it works in phone calls that way. And that's what active noise canceling does. And it really is dramatic. So let's see, next screen. This is on the left-hand side. When you triple click with a hearing device, this is what the screen looks like. And then again, these other ones here have all these different settings. All right, let's see. I think that good. We've already done that. So let me go back to this. So we'll look at this conversation video.
Conversation Boost for AirPods Pro helps you focus on the voice of the person directly in front.
And again, AirPods Pro has this, and it somewhat helps people with hearing devices, but AirPod Pros are not designed to be hearing devices, but it will help in a situation like this.
View in a crowded environment. Here's how to turn it on. In your accessibility settings, scroll down and tap Audio Visual. Tap Headphone Accommodations, then turn it on. To turn on Conversation Boost, While your AirPods Pro are connected to your iPhone or iPad, open Control Center. With the hearing control added to Control Center, tap it to show the menu. Tap Headphone Accommodations, then tap Transparency Mode if it's not on already. Tap anywhere outside the menu to go back to the hearing controls. Now, scroll down and tap Conversation Boost to turn it on. Concentrate on your conversation.
So it's similar to what it is for hearing devices, but there it's not in accessibility. Now, if you think about this, if you're using Live Listen or Conversation Boost, and you take the phone and put it by somebody, Bluetooth works for between 30 to 100 feet. So think about this for a minute. You're at a table and there's a conversation going on. And you've got Live Listen turned on and it's coming into your hearing devices or your AirPods. And you walk away to go somewhere else in the room. Yes, you'll be able to hear what the other people at the table are saying or saying about you. But I wouldn't say you should do that. Not that anybody would listen to a conversation when they're going away. You wouldn't want to do that, but I'm just letting you know it's a possibility. So anyway, just don't get caught. I think that would be great in business negotiations. Or they'll know that or they would know, that would be a good one. They know that you can hear them, so they give you fake information. All right, so we're going to go into assistive touch. And this is actually, this is pretty interesting from a sight of hearing, but also just motive things.
With assistive touch, you can.
So if you notice that, she can't use her watch because she only has one hand. And there's a assistive touch thing you do by grabbing you make a fist twice, and that the Apple Watch notices that and activates the Apple Watch.
Use your Apple Watch by performing hand gestures instead of touching the screen. This video covers how to turn on assistive touch and how to use gestures.
And again, this works well for everybody. It's not just for people that may have issues with their limbs.
Quick actions to get things done. You'll need an Apple Watch Series 4 or later with Watch OS 8.3 or later. You can turn on assistive touch in the accessibility settings on your Apple Watch or on your iPhone with the latest version of iOS.
That's the volume.
Apple Watch app.
What, Bob? What'd you say, Bob?
We could barely hear it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Select accessibility.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And then select assistive touch. Turn on assistive touch, and then you can personalize it using the options below. You can increase the contrast, customize the menu, and more. Select hand gestures to see what each one does and customize them if you'd like. Here's what they do by default. You can pinch your pointer finger to your thumb to move to the next item on screen. Double pinch to go back one item. Quickly clench your fist to tap the selected item. And double clench to activate assistive touch and to open the action menu, which lets you perform complex actions like scrolling or pressing the digital crown. Now let's see how to use those gestures to navigate your Apple Watch. Raise your arm to wake your watch, and you'll see a blue ring around the screen to indicate that assistive touch is ready. Double clench your fist to activate it. You'll get haptic feedback, and the first item on your watch face is selected.
Haptic feedback means that it will give you a vibration knowing that you've done it. Kind of like similar if you're walking, if you have Apple Maps going and you've got walking directions or even driving directions, your watch will vibrate a certain way to turn left and a certain way to turn right. So that's what haptic feedback is, which is HAPTIC. Very similar to how when we use our devices and we touch it, it gives us haptic feedback in the way of a vibration. Kind of think of it in the old days when you clicked, or let's say you're typing and the phone makes an audible sound when you tap a key. Well, the haptic is this feedback loop instead of sound. It gives you a vibration.
Let's open Notification Center using the action menu. Double clench to open the action menu, and then you can pinch to move forward and double pinch to move back. To tap the system menu, clench your fist, and then clench again to tap Notification Center. Now you can double pinch to move through the list of notifications and clench to tap Clear All. Your Apple Watch shows a prompt when you can take a quick action. To answer a call or stop a timer, just double clench your fist. I'm in the park. Come meet me. And that's how to use Assistive Touch on Apple Watch. To learn more about accessibility features, check out our accessibility.
To me, that shows you some amazing features of technology and how it's just starting and what it can do. It's just amazing. But now on the other hand, before we had mobile phones, people that were walking around just speaking out loud in the middle of nowhere, we used to think kind of strangely of them. Now with phones, we see that all the time. And then of course, now with headsets, it's even worse. So now you've got somebody that's talking, seems like they're talking to themselves, but they're carrying on a conversation with their headset, whether it be AirPods or hearing devices. And now you're going to see people doing weird hand gestures, and we're just going to think everybody's all wacko. Well, it's even going to get worse when we have augmented reality and we have the glasses on this. But this assistive touch thing to me is just fantastic. And the time they spent to make this happen so that people can use the Apple Watch without having to touch the face on the Apple Watch, I think it's just fantastic. And it's all based on the whole accessibility thing. So, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that one. That one's a little bit obscure. So voice control is very important. And this can be, I find that this is not just if you have an impairment. I think this can be very useful for everybody for productivity.
With voice control, you can navigate your iPhone and iPad with just your voice, which is helpful if you have limited mobility. We'll show you how to turn on voice control, how to use gesture commands, how to use overlays, and how to pause or turn off voice control. First, let's turn on voice control. You can ask Siri to turn on voice control, or you can turn it on in settings. Just scroll down and tap accessibility. Then tap voice control and tap set up voice control at the top of the screen. Voice control requires a short download before it's ready to use, but after that, it doesn't need Wi-Fi or cellular data to work. Now you can begin navigating your iPhone with just your voice. When voice control is turned on, a blue microphone appears in the top left corner of your screen. Let's check out some basic screen navigation commands. Go home. Swipe left. Swipe right. Open notes. What can I say? This brings up a list of some of the most useful voice control commands. You can say, go back, to return to the previous screen. You can also make various adjustments in Control Center. Let's turn down the volume. Open Control Center. Turn down the volume. Perfect. To see a list of all the commands you can use, just say, show commands for a glossary in the voice control section of your iPhone settings. There are 3 different screen overlays you can use with voice control to make it easier to interact with on-screen elements like buttons or sliders. Depending on the app or what you're doing, one overlay may be more helpful than others. Let's say we want to take a photo. Open camera. To show the names of the buttons on screen, say, show names. For this picture, we don't need live photo on. Let's turn it off. Tap live photo.
So she's saying, because it has these labels and it said live photo, she's saying tap live photo, which would be the equivalent of you taking your finger and tapping it. She is not tapping it with her finger.
Now, let's select a spot on screen to set the camera focus. Show grid. This overlay is helpful if you want to interact with a specific point on screen. Let's focus in on grid 15, 15, 7, 5. There we go. If you don't know the name of a button, you have other options too, like number labeling. Show numbers. This adds a number to things like buttons and links that you can tap. Show numbers continuously. This will keep number labeling dimmed on screen until you speak a command. Now, let's take the photo. Tap 7. Ta-da! You can say, hide numbers when you're done. If you want to stop voice control from listening to your voice commands, you can say, go to sleep, to pause it while it runs in the background. To have it start listening again, just say, wake up. Once voice control is set up, you can also use Siri to turn it on or off. Now that you know the basics of voice control, discover what other commands you can use to navigate your devices. Swipe left. For more helpful accessibility tips, check out our playlist on the Apple Support YouTube channel, or click another video to keep watching.
So I use this because I have my phone mounted on my dash, and for the majority of the things I do, I don't even have to look at the phone to do this. Now, obviously, you can have Siri do a lot of the things for you, but this kind of goes beyond that. But this was designed for people that have motive issues or ability, Parkinson's people and things like that, so that they can really interact with the phone quite well. Obviously, this wouldn't be beneficial to a sight impaired person, but to somebody that's got physical impediments, it is. But I think there's some features on this that can work really well. And I think the next video, yeah, there's some others in here, but I'm going to go through and let's see. Yeah, we've got time for this because all of these are very short. So, and again, if there's any questions, feel free to butt in, or I don't mean butt in, but just unmute yourself and or raise your hand.
You can customize accessibility settings on an app-by-app basis to work best for you. Here's how.
So this is different. Before we did accessibility settings in general for the entire phone. These are a way to go in and do it specifically with certain apps.
In your accessibility settings, scroll down and tap Per App Settings. Tap Add App. Choose an app you'd like to customize. Now tap the app you just added in the app customization list. Then customize the app settings to work best for you. You can adjust settings like text size, reduce motion, increase contrast, and more.
It's essentially the same settings, but it's specific to an individual app.
The next time you open the app, you'll see the changes you made. Customize settings app by app.
So I think that's very useful because like reading mail or in Safari, you might want your text a little bigger, but on the rest of the ones you don't. So now this is something I've been getting into a lot lately is shortcuts. Now shortcuts are called, they're activated with Siri, but it's essentially like programming different things. Like I for instance, I have a command that I have that I've programmed it to say, I say the word open sesame and it opens the trunk on my car. I have another one that says open the garage door and it uses the devices to open the garage door. I can have it turn on ceiling fans and do different things like that. And you can do combinations, but I can also say like, you could have a shortcut where it goes into Apple Music and plays a specific playlist. You can have it play a specific podcast, different things like that. So Shortcuts are just essentially programming language. And then this is using the accessibility shortcut for it. So we'll go into there. And by the way, you know, they keep navigating into accessibility. You can always tell Siri to open accessibility, and it does that. So the majority of the things you have in setting, you can just say that with Siri to say, open this or open that. Just like you could say, turn off Bluetooth or turn on Wi-Fi or whatever.
To find the right built-in accessibility features on your iPhone or iPad, you can use the Accessibility Assistant in the Shortcuts app. Here's how it works. Tap the Accessibility Assistant shortcut to run it. If it's not in My Shortcuts, you can search for it in the gallery and tap Add Shortcut. Choose a category from the list, and then choose a condition that applies to you. Tap Yes if you'd like to choose more conditions, or you can tap Done if you're finished. The first time you run a shortcut, you may be prompted for permission to continue. Tap OK if you agree. Then you can choose a category and tap another condition to select it. Once you're finished, tap Done. And when you're prompted for permission to access notes, tap OK if you agree. After the shortcut runs, the Notes app will launch with a list of accessibility features that you might find helpful, plus resources to help get you started. You can refer back to the note anytime or revisit the shortcut whenever you like.
So basically what this did is it takes this information and puts it in notes for you that has all these hyperlinks, and then you can always go back to it. So that's what this is. It's so you don't have to dig down in and find out all this information. It's going to be in notes for you in a specific for a specific part of accessibility.
Find what works for you.
Okay. So speak selection, I showed you earlier. This is going to give you a little bit better way. And again, this is, for instance, if you just want your screen to read for you. The other thing is, I find this useful because I'm a terrible writer, that I can use this if I'm composing something in Pages or even in an email. I will have it speak it back to me because that's essentially like a proofreader.
You can have your Mac speak selected text with a keyboard shortcut. Here's how to set up speech selection. In System Preferences, click Accessibility. Click Spoken Content. Then select the checkbox labeled Speak Selection to turn it on. Click Options next to Speak Selection, then customize the settings. Press a key combination to choose a keyboard shortcut. By default, the shortcut is Option and Escape. To change the other settings, click the pop-up menu next to each option. Choose to have words, sentences, or both highlighted as your Mac speaks. You can choose the highlight color for words and for full sentences. Choose to have spoken sentences indicated with an underline or a background color. Select to show the controller automatically when you press the keyboard shortcut, always or never. Then click OK. Once you've customized Speak Selection, here's how to use it. Select the text you'd like your Mac to read, then press the keyboard shortcut you set.
My week on a goat farm.
Have text read to you.
There's a little easier way, and I'll go in. Let's go into that. Actually, let me supply these. So right here, so here's text down at the bottom. So I'm just going to highlight this. I've highlighted it. Don't worry about what it's. I know it's small on your screen. And I either two-finger click or secondary click, control click, and there's a chance to look up a word, things like that. But there I can say speech, start speaking. So I control click on what I highlighted.
As a mildly dyslexic person, the ability to have my Mac read to me long paragraphs, emails, etc.
So that's built in. You don't really have to do all those jumping through the different hoops like it was. Again, you highlight. The other thing is, while we're here, we should point this out. So here's the word indispensable. I hold down control and click or two-finger click on the word dispensable, right there is the dictionary. Look up indispensable. Boom, it pops up and you have this. So that's not just Safari, that's anywhere you have text for the reading or that. If you highlight it, it does that. So very, very useful shortcuts. All right, next one. I forget what this one is.
Live Listen uses the microphone in your iPhone or iPad to pick up audio and send it to your compatible headphones. Here's how. In Settings, tap Control Center. Tap the Add button to add hearing. Turn on Live Listen. Open Control Center and tap the hearing button. With your headphones connected, tap Live Listen to turn it on. Audio is sent from the microphone on your device to your headphones, so you can hear more clearly. Hear more of what matters.
All right, three more videos, four more. So,
Live Listen uses the microphone in your iPhone or iPad to pick up audio and send it to your compatible headphones. Here's how. In Settings,
Ken, I've lost sound.
Me too.
Me too.
We can't hear you, Ken.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wow,
Finally.
it switched microphones. Did you hear that last video?
No. You
The
know,
one, the one about, okay, well, but you heard the one before that.
Speech selection. Yeah, I believe we heard that.
Got it. Okay. And then when I did Safari speak selection, you heard that?
Yeah, we got the bulk of it.
Okay, good. Because I didn't really play anything after that. So that's okay. So
Good.
yeah, I think what happened is it might have, because I was doing videos and then I did speak selection, for some reason it chose my other microphone, which I don't know why it's not working. But anyway, I'm back to the original one. So that worked out. Thank goodness the tech glitch happened in the last 2 minutes. So anyway, so this is Apple support and it's YouTube. And I just always do a search for YouTube Apple support page and then go find this. Al has the links for that. The other thing I want to point out is this is Apple's accessibility page, and it's apple.com/accessibility, and it goes into a lot of it. But if you see right here at the top, discover vision, that's the discover we're on, vision, mobility, hearing, or cognitive. And I have those links, and there's just a ton of information about the different modes of accessibility and what you can do. And like in the one I pointed out earlier, it's amazing the depth that there's in the Apple devices, and they're constantly making it better. I mean, things like the ability to really zoom in on a screen. Oh, I should point out, there's another, let me see if it's a system preference setting. Hang on. System preferences on the Mac. This is because, on the iOS devices, you can zoom in with your fingers and there's a zoom setting. But on the Mac, I want to show you two settings that are, it's really hard because of the new one. Okay, display settings. So in Monterey, you can go in here. Normally it's set. I'm not going to click it because it'll screw up our broadcast here, but it's by default by display. But if I hit scaled, what happens is I can make my screen much, much larger, and their text will be more readable, and it's everything on the screen is larger, just not the text. So you have that ability to change what's on your screen. Now, by increasing to be able to see things bigger on the screen, you're of course going to have to scroll around. So at the expense of real estate, you can zoom things in like that. But the other one is keyboards. Let me see if it's in here. So there's a command to zoom your screen in, and you can tell me if this works on this. If I hold Control and I scroll, is that moving on the screen for you guys, or is it the same size? Is the screen getting larger or smaller for you guys?
Stay the same.
Okay, so but on your computer, if you do 2-finger scroll or Control scroll, it zooms your screen in and out. And that's just very helpful. But the problem is, once you're zoomed in, then you have to use the mouse to kind of move the screen around. But Control, think of it in your mind, Control scroll. By holding down Control and then scrolling, however you scroll, whether it be with the rubbing your fingers on the mouse or 2 fingers on a trackpad, it will zoom in your display. Obviously, I can't show that on the screen. So any questions before we wrap up? We covered a lot. You'll have tons of links. And Al, I encourage you just to kind of do that, because I did them in order here. That group, even though you put them in, you feel free to just paste that one shot like that. And again, thanks to Bob. He was doing his best Al impression before you got here and was doing great. And then Al, again, it is so helpful what you do for links, and you go beyond. I mean, you come in with this tangential stuff up here, so it really supplements and augments what we're doing in this presentation. So other than that, don't experiment in that one screen, but you can play with other stuff if you'd like. And everybody should go into display and turn bold text on their iOS devices. It helps a lot. So any other questions before we end this 3-hour session? Wow. And such a nice day today too.
Yeah.
Anybody feel free to, and I didn't see if I missed anything in chat. I don't know that I did. There's tons of links and everything. So, and Keith, hopefully that one about the first video I showed on the universal control, that's what you're going to Google under to see if it does what you need. That's not that you don't have to wait for the new operating system to come out.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay,
Well,
I have one.
Go ahead.
Do you think that the iPhone 14 is going to be a good deal, or is it going to be about the same?
Oh my God, it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. It'll be 400% faster than last year, and you'll have to have it, and it's going to be super cheap.
Okay.
No.
Don't forget the camera will be better.
Yeah, everything improves with each model. There are indications, because of the supply chain challenges right now, that they will be where they've normally held price. They may be $100 more incrementally than they were before. But we don't know at this point. The iPhone 13, just to give you an example, the 13 Pro to me sounded like it was going to be a yawner upgrade from the 12 Pro Max. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I am so impressed with the camera in the 13 Pro Max versus the 12. It's blown me away, and it was not really held in that high a regard. I hate not owning something, but I essentially lease my phone in that I'm on the Apple upgrade program, where I essentially pay for the phone in 24 equal payments. There's no interest. And those 24 equal payments are every month. but after actually even less than 12 months, I could trade it in. But basically at the end of a year, I can turn it in and get to start with the new phone, making 12 equal payments. I mean, 24 equal payments, but I only have to make 12 of them. So essentially I'm paying for half the phone in 1 year. And that's not a bad deal. And remember, that's the other argument to people with Androids. See what kind of resale their phone's worth after a year. It's zero. Where an iPhone, you can get, it's worth at least half of what you paid after a year's time. There is resale on Apple products, but the upgrade program allows you to just swap it. Now, I can rationalize that because I say that I do it for you guys, so I can always be on the bleeding edge. So thank you for being my my rationalization for doing that. But I enjoy it because it really, to me, I'm not spending that money on expensive cameras and lenses anymore because the majority of the photos I take are with my iPhone, and I want to have the best camera phone that I can, because those are pictures, and it's become a huge part of my life as far as those photos when I'm traveling. So everybody gets different. And I always say so it's between like the 13 Pro and the regular 13. It's all about if you're trying to take photographs or just taking snapshots. And it takes miraculous snapshots, but the Pro always has a little bit better. And that's where Apple sucks it in. It costs them not much more to make the Pro, but they charge more for it. So, and we'll be making, that stuff's coming up. So Randy, you've got a question. Go ahead.
Yes. Also, you were talking about the Apple upgrade program. I'm on that as well. And what I did is actually switch over to pay using the Apple Card. So I pay Citizens One with the Apple Card, and I have been getting the 3% back on my payment that goes to Citizens One.
Yeah. So what Randy's pointing out there is the Apple Card. Anything you buy from Apple, you get 3% cash back, just basically what it is. And it's really, the Apple Card's great. So in that case, it's really good. I have a couple 2% cards, so it's much better to use the 3% for Apple. And actually, that's a good idea, Randy. I'm glad you brought it up. I actually used my travel card for that one because I'm getting my points that way, but I think the cash back would be better. So yeah, you could switch it to that. And it's again, you figure out what the phone price is, 24 equal payments, and then it's a requirement that you have Apple Care on it, and it's included, but in fact you pay for it. So
okay, thanks.
Good point.
Yep.
All right. And just a side note, and I grew up in retail. I know how tough retail is. People like Best Buy that have Apple products and things like that. Apple is both a retailer and a manufacturer. They're a retailer, a manufacturer, and a distributor. So they kind of do all of those. So Apple has to be careful not to step on the toes of their retailers, because people like Best Buy, obviously, if there's no Apple store in town, Best Buy needs to be a viable concern. And margins on electronic goods are not very good at all. And that's because of the old days where the commodity, you had Dell, Gateway, NEC, and all of these people are fighting to just be on price, and it was a downward spiral. So then nobody's making any money on the thing. You can see what happened. Well, Apple was a different thing with their computers, and therefore they could have margin in it. But that's all being said, I'm trying to say the majority of you people can purchase from the education store, even, and it's your decision on ethics on this, but they don't really do verification on it. To get into that store, I do a search for Apple Pro Bundle. And when you look for Apple Pro Bundle, it takes you to $199 deal, which is incredible. You don't have to buy it, but if you want Final Cut, Logic, all of that other stuff. It's a pro bundle on that. And therefore, then you're in the education store and you can do the things. For instance, the MacBook Pro is 100, or the new iMac is $100 less in that store. And the only reason I bring this out is buying direct from Apple, they're making a better margin than the retailer. And this is a way for people to, because Best Buy might have it on sale for $100. So you need to make that ethical decision whether you're, quote, an educator or not. But there's no stipulation on it other than you have to say, you know, they don't check it, but it is a discount. And currently the MacBook Airs, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, I think even the 14s and a few of the devices, unfortunately not the Studio, in addition, till October, you get a $150 Apple gift card with that purchase. But the education store has less for Apple Care and other things. So I'm telling you that's a shopping option. I'm leaving that up to you what you want to do with that. But I just like to have everybody be informed with it. So
and there may be a government discount.
Yeah,
too.
there's a government store and everything, but I think, Mary, don't they do some verification on that?
I don't know, but for retirees and employees, that's not really an issue. It's pretty easy to get it, I would think.
Can
Yeah,
you go
Bob?
to the bottom of any page on the Apple website?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Way to the bottom, there's links to both those things.
And I should tell you too, there's also a link for refurbished and clearance. And that's a great story. Now, if we're all, like, most of us are on the bleeding edge because we'll buy something before it ever gets in the refurb store. But Apple refurbs are absolutely fantastic. I encourage all my friends and family to always check there. Now, recently, there's hardly been anything there because of the chip shortage. You know, it's amazing Apple's been able to do so well getting all the supply chain done. But since the supply chain is slow, people have been buying up those things like crazy. And it's fairly empty, but it's a great deal. And those things have the exact same warranty. And in fact, those devices very few times have even been used. But if they've been used, they're even checked out more than when devices come new. And sometimes they're just open box, or there's the product before this one, and there's good deals in them. And sometimes they're better than in the education or the military store. So go ahead, Dennis. Did you have a question?
Yeah, two things. Do you, when you do the trade-in for the phone, do you sell your own, or do you send it back to Apple when you get your new phone?
Yeah. So great question. So in the trade-in, it's set up so that they send me a box to send it back in, and basically that I stop paying on it and start paying on the new one. So it's a transition that way. But whenever I do that, I contact friends, because essentially they're just going to give me half the value of the phone, and I could then continue to make those payments or pay off that phone. So it's a good deal. If I have friends that are interested in a new phone, I make it available to them at essentially half price of what I paid. I'm not trying to make money on it, but I'm trying to give them a deal rather than just turn it in. So that's an option. I've only had somebody take me up on it one time.
Yeah, I do that.
And I don't really market it a lot, but it is an opportunity.
The second question is, I bought a refurbished Apple, and it was great.
From Apple.
From Apple, I bought a.
Only place you buy anything refurbished. Don't buy, whether it's phone, watches, only from Apple, you guys. It's not worth the pain and the heartache.
It just came in a blank box. That's all it was. And it was.
Yeah, it doesn't have the fancy box. And believe me, there's no way you couldn't tell it was new. I mean, is just, it's not like there's marks on it and, you know, Gerber baby food or anything else on it. It's perfect.
Yeah, great.
Randy, you had a question, or did you withdraw your question? Oh, yeah, he's tied up. Anybody else? Great questions on that. And again, that's going to be in the fall, so then we'll know ahead of time, but probably depending on supply chain, might be October, but probably September we'll have new iPhones. And Randy, did you have a question? You had your hand up for a second.
It was just a second. It was on, I think it was Mary with the government, and I think she covered everything there. I did just want to confirm, since my spouse is government employee, I did order like a little cable adapter for the new USB-C, format, so that my other older USB-As would work. And so I did use the government thing because it does say family as well. And so I was thinking when I went into the Apple store to pick it up, oh, are they going to check? And I thought, I do have the insurance coverage card from, the government employer. So, but they did not ask or verify.
So there was no verification when you placed the order.
That's the point I wanted to make. Yeah.
So, and I can't verify this, but I think that if you go into the store, they may ask for education or government employee if you're in the store trying to buy it. But if you order it online for store pickup, all they want is your information. It's just like a regular order. So, and again, I feel it's important to share these things with you guys. I'm not the moral arbiter telling you whether you should or you shouldn't, but I rationalize it also when I think about, and then like the brand new iPhone is not going to have an education discount or a military discount. It's when the stuff's more in the mainstream, and the refurbs don't have additional discounts. And one thing to remember, if you do buy military or education discount, like if you upgrade to the bigger hard drive or things like that, that's discounted usually 10%. But also the Apple Care is discounted also. So, but remember, I think that Apple would love to give those discounts, but they don't want them to be right in your face, because that would make it hard for the retailers to sell things at retail. So, and it's not my job to keep Best Buy in business, but it's Apple's job to help Best Buy stay in business for towns that don't have Apple stores. So, and then the question always comes up too, and I don't know if you guys all need to know, but the people, I get this question a lot. If I buy my computer at Best Buy or my watch at Best Buy, will Apple still provide the warranty? Yes, they will. And in fact, anybody, doesn't matter where you bought it, you can get a Genius Bar appointment and take it into Apple. You're covered completely on that kind of thing, no matter where you bought it. And I don't recommend now. So the other thing is, in Best Buy, you could buy your Apple with Geek Squad support. Finally, they got rid of that, and it's all Apple Care type support. As far as Apple Care goes, I will not make any recommendations one way or the other. I'll just give you some insight. I think on desktop machines, there's less. And these days, things aren't, it's amazing how Apple products are just lasting so well now that we don't have spinning hard drives and things like that. But I think that desktop machines, it's a hard call. Laptops are a little bit more prone to having issues, and mobile devices especially. So as you increase its portability, you should think more and more about if you want to get Apple Care. And now they even have Apple Care where you can pay per year, or you can pay for the 3 years of Apple Care or 2 years up front. And there's Apple Care Plus for an iOS device. It'll cover damage, water, all that stuff. Read into those and don't just dismiss it. But on computers, what I generally look at, or actually even on phones, there's an Apple iPhone. If you get the biggest 1 terabyte 13 Pro Max, Apple Care on that is the same price as if you get the iPhone SE, which is 1/3 of the price. So if you're going to insure something for X amount of dollars, and it's on something that's not very expensive, the insurance is a higher percentage of what the price was. So maybe that's not as good of a deal. Whereas on something very expensive, it's this insurance at the same price, you're I think it's a smarter call. For instance, let's just look at, let's say you have a 24-inch, or let's say a 16-inch MacBook Pro versus a 14-inch MacBook Pro, which is $400 less. But you take one and you completely put in it. You put a 4 terabyte drive and this extra RAM. That darn thing could be $4,000 more than the other one, but the price of AppleCare is the same on both of them. So to me, it makes more sense that you protect the more expensive investment with the AppleCare because it's the same price. But then you think about it, and if it's, you know, a bigger percentage is the insurance on the one, is it worth it? So you have to look at it that way. So, and desktop computers, AppleCare is less than it is on laptops because they're not getting thrown out of buses and things like that. So anybody else? All right. Well, we went over. Sorry, but good deal. You got more for your money's worth today. And Al, Bob, thanks for doing that. And we will see everybody later. Have fun.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
At 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, 1 o'clock, same link. Hey,
For
Al,
board
I want to make sure before I quit, you got text saved, or does it pop up and save automatically for you anyway? Oh, I have it from the beginning. So I will send you the one that I'll have because Bob put some in there. You're muted.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll save that right now.
And get cracking on that.
Yeah. Great job on that too, by the way. So what I did is today I had all those links ready and I was able to go into bookmarks, and there's a thing where I could save all those tabs as text like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
unfortunately, it puts the bullet point in it, but I figure you can just copy and paste it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I tune it up. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Cool.
good.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
All right,
Thank you.
See you in a little bit.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Where's my chat?